patronages following the death of Queen Elizabeth II. The decision comes as the Armed Forces charity prepares to mark the 80th anniversary of the Second World War D-Day landings on June the 6th. Those are the headlines. More to come with Nana throughout the next hour. Until then, you can sign up to GB News Alerts. Just scan the code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sam. If you've just joined us, it's just coming up to 7 minutes after 3 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. Some breaking news from Manchester. Labour's Andy Burnham has been re-elected as the Greater Manchester Mayor. So I think that was a result that everyone expected, so it's probably no surprise. But we will keep you up to date with all of the proceedings coming up, especially with the mayoral elections. But now it's time to mock the week. What a busy one it's been. Now, I won the bet because last week I said that Hamza would be out on Monday, and, well, I was right.
Spending the weekend reflecting on what is best for my party, for the government and for the country I lead, I've concluded that repairing our relationship across the political divide can only be done with someone else at the helm. I have therefore informed the SNP's National Secretary of my intention to stand down as party leader.
So that was, and then do you remember back in 2020 when he had a dig at multiculturalism?
My portfolio alone, the Lord President, white. The Lord Justice Clerk, white. Every High Court judge, white. The Lord Advocate, white. The Solicitor General, white. The Chief Constable, white. Every Deputy Chief Constable, white. Every Assistant Chief Constable, white. The Head of the Law Society, white.
In a 95% white country. Hamza, you did a great job, thank you. And the King returned to duty. It seems the doctors are incredibly happy with his progress, and whilst he has been diagnosed with cancer, last week he did announce 2 engagements, one of which was visiting a cancer diagnostic centre, which he visited then. Good on Charles, he's completely selfless in his service, unlike Prince Harry, who returns to the UK next week to celebrate 10 years of Invictus, although if rumours are to be believed, Invictus want to get rid of him. And then a beautiful and very, very sad news. A beautiful young boy called Daniel was killed in a sword attack, a senseless waste of a promising life. And, of course, this keeps happening. Others were injured as well. We'll be talking about knife crime in our round-table discussion. How can we stop the scourge? And then Rwanda became a reality this week as one migrant agreed to be sent there voluntarily, and others were rounded up in an immigration raid. And in the meantime, the Republic of Ireland, who declared the UK an unsafe country because of Rwanda, found themselves in a bind as migrants from Northern Ireland crossed the border to avoid a possible Rwanda draft. And as the Republic have declared the UK unsafe, they're now unable to give the migrants back. You couldn't make it up. And then in big news this week, we've had a by-election in Blackpool, in Scott Benton's old seat, 107 council elections, 11 mayoral contestants, and loads of different local elections, 37 police and crime commissioner elections across England and Wales. Boris turned up to vote. He showed up without any ID. Police, this was quite hilarious, really, because it was actually his policy about ID, so that's interesting. He didn't show up with it. And the Tories have seen a drubbing at local level, but managed to keep hold of a few mayors. Labour has seen huge gains all round, and it'll be interesting to see what evolves. The big one, of course, this afternoon, it is evolving as we speak. Sadiq Khan, can he keep hold of London? He may well just have. It's been a mucky old week. So coming up, Bruce Devlin will be making light of the week's top stories in Muck the Week. Then at 3:20, I've got this week's hot topic in our roundtable discussion, the rise of knife crime in the UK. I'll have 3 brilliant guests joining me in the studio to discuss, one of those being Ken Hines. You won't want to miss that. Then at 3:35, GB News correspondent Olivia Utley will be live from London City Hall, giving us the latest on the London mayoral election results. Then, joining me to shine a light in the political hot seat today is Lee Anderson MP. He'll be here at 3:45, giving me the latest on his thoughts on all things elections. That's coming up in the next hour. As ever, tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. Go to gbnews.com/your say. Right, so joining me now is comedian Bruce Devlin. Bruce, welcome.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Well, Hamza Yousaf.
Yes.
Now, he has, obviously, he's left. He's given up the ghost.
He's given his notice.
He has given... What are your thoughts? Because you're Scottish.
That's true. That's one of the many things that I am as Scottish. I think even... Did you watch the resignation speech? Because,
I did, yes.
Yeah, so I watched that, and I think he kind of is of the opinion that he dealt with the Greens inappropriately, or that was a bad decision. And a lot of people are saying that it was. Also, as well, though, there was a big feeling in Scotland that they were angry that the Greens were unelected because the SNP, when there was the, you know, we had Les, we had Boris, we had whoever, and they were like general election, and it was like, I was watching Question Time there on Thursday, and they were saying, yeah, put it back to the people. So I think some people will be sad he's gone, some people will be delighted he's gone, and I don't know how Patrick and Lorna are feeling now, because they've had a week off, haven't they? Because she was very angry. I don't think she had to curl her own hair. I think that was all just stress and anger. She could have saved energy with all that nervous rage, and you put like a solar panel. She could have powered her own electricity.
That would have been interesting, wouldn't it? The sun powering her as she goes along. Now, it's very nice to see the King back in action.
Yes. Yes.
He went to his first engagement. It was a cancer charity.
Yeah, which I think whether you're a monarchist or not, I think the good thing about it is he's shining a light, particularly on male cancer. I'm not saying that one isn't more important than the other, but a lot of men leave it to the last minute for diagnosis and self-checks and whatever, and, you know, not going to the doctor. I'm completely different. I'll go to the doctor any time, sort of thing. It's not that I'm a hypochondriac.
I was going to say.
Yeah, you know.
That's what I was thinking.
But no, I think, and good on him. And Camilla, Queen Camilla, she's really picked up. I think it's interesting. I was watching something the other day and they said, goodness, could you have imagined 20 years ago we would have been having a conversation that we have Queen Camilla, and how well liked she seems to be now. She seems to, the other woman title seems to be way in the past. So no, I think good on both of them. And obviously she's going around being the face. She'll be worried about her man and all that kind of stuff, but he does seem to be on the road to recovery, so that's on everything.
Yeah, it's nice to see, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, this whole thing with Rwanda, because they declared us, the Republic of Ireland, declared the United Kingdom as unsafe because we accepted, we had the Rwanda bill, and before that they said that Rwanda's not a safe country, so therefore you're unsafe, so we're not going to be part of you. And now, obviously, the migrants have seen Rwanda start to happen, and some of them have decided that they don't want to be in the catchment area.
No, so they're going to Ireland now, and it's the case that Ireland can't put them anywhere.
Well, they can't bring them back to us because they've declared us as an unsafe country.
Unsafe, yes.
Because of Rwanda.
But one person did opt to go to Rwanda.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
A volunteer.
Right, OK.
And that is a scheme that's been open to a lot of, you know, it's open and you get £3,000. It's a resettlement scheme, and lots of people do take up those sort of offers.
But I take it that that guy didn't go on a plane on his own, or the woman, whoever it was, I don't know their gender. But because the planes are costing, I don't know the figure, but apparently the planes that haven't taken it. So is this just one person?
One person has gone. They've accepted a voluntary sort of scheme, which
so
means they can't come back. But, of course, the Rwanda scheme is now... I mean, I don't know whether you saw it, the police are sort of rounding up around a property, then getting a load of migrants from that property and bundling them into the police van, very politely, obviously. It wasn't aggressive or anything, but they are going to be potentially sent to Rwanda, some of those people.
So the police, whether it was done aggressively or not...
No, I don't think it was.
No, but I'm just saying, is that the right thing to do?
What's wrong? Well, I think it's all right to say you guys are potentially for Rwanda. They're failed asylum seekers.
All right, OK, well...
That's what it's, you know.
Right, OK. Would you want to go to Rwanda?
It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place. I've not been.
No.
But I know of it. I mean, it's got lower crime in literally every level than this country. So if they're saying that Rwanda's unsafe, then I don't know where they'd put us.
Well, that's the thing, because, again, going back to Question Time, there was an American economist that said, you know, you can balk at the problems we have with guns in America, you have the same with knife crime in the UK.
They don't have that in Rwanda. See, that sort of issue is not there in Rwanda.
Can they get GBNews in Rwanda?
Well, they can do if they go online to gbnews.com.
OK.
Of course they can. You can get that. You go, download the app. I think you can watch us globally. And, of course, now we've got the mayoral elections. So we've got all the elections going on, but the big ones are obviously around the country. I think there are London. 11 mayoral elections. And we have a lot of them have suddenly, you know, we know a lot of the results. I think it's Sadiq Khan is a dead cert in London, pretty much.
Yeah, but well, it's funny because obviously I don't stay here all the time, and some people absolutely love him and some people absolutely loathe him. I think it's all the ULICE stuff that seems to upset people. Do you think he'll get in?
I know. I think it's a dead cert now that with the numbers the way they are, sadly, I don't think that there's any chance that he'll be unseated. So a third term of Sadiq Khan.
And you're happy about this? Or?
Listen, it's not down to me. I'm not a Londoner. I don't live in London, so it's not directly affecting me. But the ULEZ was very unpopular, and obviously London has a massive knife crime problem, and the police in London as well. There's an issue with the Metropolitan Police as well. He's sort of at the top of a lot of these things.
Yes. Well, they had that in... Well, they've got ULEZ in Glasgow now, although I live in Edinburgh, but in Glasgow. But apparently, I think when it was due to begin, the council's own vans didn't meet the emissions grade. So they've had to get some new transport, some new wheels.
Some new wheels?
Think, yes.
Well, listen, Bruce Devlin, when are you back on? Are you on Headliners? What are you on?
Funnily enough, I'm on Headliners tonight. And I'm on no mood elevator. I'm not on anything else. I'm high on life.
Lovely. All right. Well, listen, thank you so much, Bruce Devlin.
Thank you, Nana.
Tune into Headliners tonight at 11 o'clock. Yeah. Thank you so much. Right, some breaking news. Labour's Tracy Brabham has been re-elected as Mayor of West Yorkshire with 275,430 votes. Stay with me. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. It's just coming up to 17 minutes after 3 o'clock. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, GB News correspondent Olivia Utley will be joining us from City Hall to give us an update on the London mayoral elections. But next, it's time for this week's hot topic in our roundtable discussion. And joining me are three brilliant guests. We will be talking about the rise in knife crime in the UK. This is GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
The Princess of Wales is now officially the most popular royal. This is a YouGov poll that found that over 75% of people have a positive view of Princess Catherine, with Prince William only slightly behind his wife at 73%. Cameron Walker, our royal correspondent, is here with this one. Well, what would you read into that, and as to why?
Well, I think it's hardly surprising. Since the start of the year, the Princess of Wales's popularity is up 6 points with the British public, according to this YouGov poll. And obviously, at the start of the year, she went into hospital for abdominal surgery and has subsequently been diagnosed with cancer and is undergoing surgery. Look, the Princess of Wales, since becoming a member of the royal family, has committed no major faux pas. There's been no particular scandal with her. She always puts family first. And I hate the phrase born a commoner, but she wasn't born into aristocracy. She was not born into the royal family. She gave up her old life. And yes, that comes with lots of privilege, being a member of the royal family, but it also comes with enormous challenges, such as everybody prying into your private life, particularly when it comes to your health. And I think the British public are very much on side with that.
Whereas Prince Harry and Meghan continue to be unpopular. 76 compared to 31% having a positive opinion of Prince Harry, and only 26%, 50 points less than Princess Catherine, is Meghan.
Yes, still not looking great for Harry and Meghan. Prince Andrew is far below them as well.
Doing well on negative views, meaning fewer people have negative views about her than anyone else, is the Princess Royal, Princess Anne.
Indeed, yes. The most hard-working royal, if you go by the number of engagements she carries out each year. No nonsense, no fuss. She never gets herself into any kind of arguments or scandals.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. It's just coming up to 21 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and it's time for this week's Hot Topic and my roundtable discussion. And we're talking knife crime. It's on the rise in Britain, and data released by the Office for National Statistics last week showed that knife crime has increased by 81% in the past decade. Now, the rise in knife crime has been linked to police budget cuts, therefore causing a fall in officer numbers and a decrease in youth services. But how do we stop all of these unnecessary deaths? There's literally one every day, if not more. So joining me now is anti-knife crime campaigner Ken Hines, former Metropolitan Police Detective Chief Inspector Peter Kirkham, and also Managing Director, Public Safety Foundation, Oliver Lawrence. All right, Ken, I'm going to start with you, because we have seen over the last few days there's already been lots of different knife crime incidents. What do you think is causing this? Because, I mean, people are getting hold of these weapons as though they're sweets.
Yeah, but I think, personally, it's attributed to a lot of low self-esteem. I find that if you've got low confidence and you really have got no self-belief or very little self-belief, you will look for that elsewhere, and you'll look for that through what they call families. But you've got to be careful. They have to be careful who you refer to as family. And all too often, you'll find that the single parent, not always single parent, but in that household, what is absolutely missing is having that generally father figure, the fatherly figure that can have influence on their male child. All too often, what you find, if it's a single parent, you'll find that if it's a male child, he feels he has to step up and be the man in the house, but he's got no reference what that man in the house has to do to encompass safeguarding the family. And all too often, you have risky behaviour. Risky behaviour is when other people see the vulnerability in these youngsters, they can then groom them into doing their bidding. And I am a person who are working with these young people through their consequences to try to change their mindset, to bring them back into a place so that they don't make the mistakes that I made in my early teens. And so it's so important, apportioning blame, and just look and see what we can do to bring about real change.
But this is like if you just assumed that it was just young men doing this. But now, it just feels, Peter, that this is extending to all sorts of people carrying weapons that just seem to be... It seems so random now. Whereas before, there was a real problem focused on the black community. You can see it. It's everywhere.
It depends how you define knife crime. There's always been knife crime in a variety of different forms. There have been knives used in serious acquisitive crime, like robbery. There's a big overlap with young people on the streets. There's been knives used in domestic incidents with people of all ages, from 0 to 90 sort of thing. And so there's a range of different areas, and I don't think it's particularly useful to deal with it all as one block, because the answers are different, and the things that can be done are different in each of those categories. But the big problem, the problem that has exploded over the last few years, is definitely involving young black males, especially in inner city areas. It's nothing to do with their ethnicity. It's a lot to do with their circumstances, I suspect. Ken's mentioned a couple of things there. There's educational attainment, exclusion from school, use of drugs and alcohol. There's any number of different things that will impact. And the answers are certainly not with the police. The answers are with the community, with the youth services, with the community groups, with the parents, with the schools and teachers.
But if I look at this, Oliver, so I was watching on the news, Mikey Roynan, there was another one, and he's not black. He wasn't, killed by somebody who's black. There's been so many, and yet, whilst I do accept that, yes, it was a real problem within the black community, it just feels as though feels like it's just something that people... There's another one here, another one, another child's being killed, another one, just...
It's a systemic issue right across the UK, there's no doubt about that. And we often talk about powers and how can we prevent this. I think there's more than enough powers, there's more than enough capabilities for the police to deal with this issue, but it isn't a sole issue of the police. It has to be a joint function between both the community and law enforcement. And there's two sides to this, really. We've got to give the confidence back to policing to be able to carry out their duties, like execute stop and search well, targeted, directed, intelligence-led. But then we've also got to understand about the root causes of knife crime. Why are youngsters carrying knives? You know, I've interviewed young men who have been stabbed on the streets of London, and there's an element of fear there. There's an element of concern when they go out, they're going to be portrayed as somebody from a particular postcode that they're not from. So we've really got to get into the root cause of that, but understand that the one biggest deterrent we have out there is our law enforcement colleagues that are on the front line, that stop and search is the significant deterrent in hopefully providing youngsters who make that erroneous decision to carry a knife, that if they get stopped and searched, that knife is found, that they'll be arrested and they'll go through that court process. But equally, that's not the cure. You know, we've got to be able to get into our communities, build that trust and confidence back up again so we can share information, work with fantastic people like Ken and understand how we can eliminate the fear that seems to exist, not just in London amongst black communities, but right across the UK.
What about the punishment, though? When you're caught, when someone is caught having committed a crime with a knife, are the punishments harsh enough? Because it doesn't feel like the young people are deterred by them.
But personally, I don't see police being a deterrent, because simple fact is, back in my days, if I had to go and walk with a knife, it'd be a flick knife or a lock knife, something that I can hide and, you know, disguise. But now people walk with Rambos and swords and things of that nature quite blatantly. But yet, when I look at the stop and search figures, less than 1% of the stop and search is leading to an arrest. So I feel at the end of the day, we're going to talk, let's have a transparency. If stop and search is the solution, let's have the figures out there. Or part of it. Let's see what it does. The effectiveness. But let's get back to the actual thing. The point that you raised is, the simple fact is that young people also got the influence of social media. Social media has played a big part into how young people think they've got to step their game up. And when we see pictures like this, what you have on there, with the sort of knives that the people said that they're taken off young people from the street, young people looking at it say, wow, look what I'm walking with. I've got to step my game up. So it's not really getting to the issues that need to be done. If we want to change the energy in that space, you've got to have people like us, street fathers. We actually go into those areas, Angel Town, we go to these particular spots where there is trouble, where there's problems, but when they see us, they know that they feel safe. They say, when we see you, big man, we know that we're good. I don't have to go over my shoulders. I don't have to watch to see what car is stopped and who's in the car, because we know that you guys are going to step in and de-escalate whatever it is and keeping us safe.
But where are the parents in all of this? Because, you know, I'm not blaming them, but, you know, Ken mentioned a lot of single mothers and things. Where are the parents?
Well, most of them are absent because they're under incredible pressure to be working 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs every hour God sends to try and keep the family together and a roof over their head and food on the table. They're feeling a bit out of depth in terms of this being something they're not familiar with themselves from their own childhoods. And there's a very, very significant number of young people who haven't got parents in the traditional sense. We're their parents, the state is their parents, they're in care of one sort or another. And that's a major issue. And so we can't blame the parents. We need to get messages to the parents that they need to share with their kids. At a young age, and I'm talking sort of 11 upwards minimum, maybe even earlier, that carrying a knife is not going to make you safer. In fact, the statistics bear out you're more likely to end up getting stabbed if you're carrying a knife than if you don't. And I take Ken's point about scaring young people with the knives being shown from seizures.
You know, I have spoken with colleagues who've worked previously in violence reduction units across the country. And I take Ken's point. I think it is an important one in terms of we want the public to understand what the police are discovering when they're entering these stops and searches, because it justifies that capability. And I think sometimes the optics and the imagery shows people what is out there. But equally, I think there's also a fear element. When you see that in an image on social media, you think to yourself, as Ken quite rightly pointed out, I've got to carry something far bigger than what I've just seen. So I think there's an element here. We've got to be cautious of what we do show out to the community, but equally we want to support our police. We want to be able to demonstrate to the community that it's effective, it's finding really significant weapons out on the street. But there is a very fine line between education and then increasing the fear which exists in our communities.
Like so much else, it's a fine balance for the police.
So if you
to
could
tread.
change...
They're defending the tactic.
We've got about a minute.
It's all they've got.
We've got about 30 seconds. If you could change one thing, what would you do? What would that one thing be?
More officers so that there's proper community policing on the street.
Yeah, better community police engagement.
More grassroots funded, supported resource groups like ourselves to be in those spaces, to be that interlock between the police and the young people, who they have confidence. They have confidence with people like ourselves, because some of us have got history no different to their history. But what we can do, we can actually have an effect on their future. But we can't stop
and that's got to be with the police officers. The police can't do it on their own.
Well, listen, Peter, Ken and Oliver, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you so much. So what are your thoughts? Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, Nana's niggle. What's wrong with Rwanda? Lee Anderson is also on the way. But first, let's get your latest news with Sam Francis.
Nana, thank you very much, and good afternoon to you from the GB newsroom. It's just after 3:30. Sir Keir Starmer says the Conservatives don't deserve to be in power for a moment longer following the local elections this week. It comes as Labour has just claimed 2 more victories in the mayoral elections in England, in yet another blow for the Tories. Tracy Brabbins won the contest in West Yorkshire, while Andy Burnham has been re-elected in the last few minutes as the Mayor of Greater Manchester. He picked up 63% of that vote and says he'll always give his all to that job. Results are also expected in London a little bit later this afternoon. In other news, more than 30,000 people in East Sussex are still without water due to a burst main. Southern Water says the disruption in St Leonards-on-Sea and in parts of Hastings will continue into tomorrow. Bottled drinks are being provided to some of those affected, while schools, a leisure centre and a theatre in the area have all been forced to close. 3 people have been charged after protesters blocked a coach taking asylum seekers to the Bibby Stockholm barge. The Metropolitan Police arrested 45 people after officers were called on Thursday morning to Peckham in south-east London. The demonstrators could be heard chanting, "No borders, no nations, stop deportations." 3 have now been charged with obstruction of the highway. That's the latest from the newsroom. More at 4 o'clock. Until then, you can sign up to GB News Alerts. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sam. Coming up, joining me to shine a light in the political hot seat, Lee Anderson MP. But next, GB News correspondent Olivia Utley will be joining us from City Hall to give us an update on the London mayoral elections. Do not go anywhere.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Now, American actress Melissa McCarthy has spoken out in defence of her best friend, Meghan Markle, calling her an inspiring woman suffering hate for getting on with her life. And the Duchess of Sussex has faced widespread criticism after she sent 50 friends and influencers gift-wrapped jam jars to celebrate the launch of the first product of a new brand, American Riviera Orchard. Well, let's speak now to a great friend of the show, the former BBC Royal correspondent and a man who likes his jam, Michael Cole. Michael, the absurdity continues. What's the latest?
Good afternoon, Martin. The plot thickens even as the jam sets. This has become a major story. Even the great Financial Times took an interest at the weekend, helpfully pointing out that you can get a jar of Dutchy organic strawberry jam for £2.80 at a well-known supermarket. Now, Dutchy Organic, the proprietor of that, of course, is His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, Prince William, the older brother of Prince Harry. And here we see it, American Riviera Orchard Montecito jam. We're getting here, this is getting very serious. And of course, her mates, she's got some interesting friends. Melissa McCarthy, who is an actress in something I've never heard of. But anyway, she says sticking up for good old Meghan, and Meghan's a woman of her own. And she, there we are seeing Miss McCarthy. But other friends of the great Meghan have taken a contrary view and think that going down this route of selling jam is not going to get her anywhere in life.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Welcome back. It's just fast approaching 37 minutes after 3 o'clock. If you've just tuned in, welcome. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. Now, Sadiq Khan appears to be pulling ahead in the initial results in the London Mayoral race. It was thought that the result could be closer than expected, but hopes are now fading that Suzanne Hall could pull off a shock victory. So joining me now is political correspondent Olivia Utley. Olivia, thank you for joining me. So you're there at City Hall. What's been happening? What's the energy like? And what are people suspecting now?
Well, it does very much look as though Sadiq Khan has won the London mayoral race. He's now 160,000 votes ahead with almost nine constituencies declared. In a couple of areas, Susan Hall has won, but the swing to the Conservatives in those areas is tiny, if not non-existent. Even in Harrow, one of those constituencies which has been really, really badly affected by ULEZ, although Susan Hall managed to win, she didn't actually get a swing towards the Conservatives. She got a 0% swing, exactly the same, in other words, as Sean Bailey achieved in 2021. It looks as though Sadiq Khan is going to win by about 10 points. That is a little bit tighter than some of the polls were predicting. And I think it is worth saying that obviously in the country, Labour is up in the polls by about 26 points. So how good is it really for Sadiq Khan? Yes, Labour will be congratulating themselves on a victory, but the fact that Sadiq Khan is actually trailing compared to Labour in the rest of the country, I think will leave some Labour activists asking themselves whether Sadiq Khan was the right candidate for this election. The same can be said, of course, of the Conservatives. As the result was a little bit closer than expected, there will be Conservatives saying, hang on a minute, why did we go with Susan Hall? She wasn't really the strongest candidate and her campaign was pretty gaffe-prone. If they'd gone for someone else, perhaps one of the many cabinet ministers who are set to lose their seats at the next general election, could the Conservatives have done a bit better and maybe even pull off a win? I think after this election there are going to be questions for both parties, but certainly this afternoon Sadiq Khan and his team will be feeling pretty chipper.
Because it does feel that ULEZ, I mean, I think a lot of people would have expected that to have a much larger impact on the numbers. I'm quite surprised that it hasn't. What are you hearing from people? What was the reason? Is there any reason why people are all stayed with Sadiq Khan? Is anyone talking about why that is the case?
Well, I think one of the reasons which Sadiq Khan's team were factoring in was that by the time ULEZ has actually been implemented, which it was a few months ago, people in London would realise that it doesn't impact quite as many people as was assumed. I remember before the ULEZ charge came in, about nearly half of Londoners thought that it was going to affect them, and actually only 1 in 10 people were affected. So it looks as though what's happened is the 1 in 10 people who have been affected by ULEZ have upgraded their cars now, and that was sort of 6 months ago, and so the effect is beginning to kind of drain away. We're not really seeing the sort of anger about ULEZ as we saw a year ago before it came in. The few people who have been affected have got used to it, and all of the people who thought they were going to be affected have realised that actually it's not so bad. It doesn't affect them at all.
And I think, didn't he retract the pay per mile idea because people were concerned that actually once everybody's got a car that is ULEZ compliant, he's not going to get any more money. Is it, well, that seems to have dissipated after he sort of announced that he wasn't going to do that.
Well, absolutely, and I think that has worked in Sadiq Khan's favour. What we're also not factoring in here is the fact that the Green vote, which has been pretty high in the local elections around the country, seems to have completely collapsed in London. Why is that? Well, it could be that Green voters in London are voting for Sadiq Khan because they are in favour of ULEZ. And because the system this time is different from previous mayoral elections, Sadiq Khan will be getting their only vote. Previously, Green voters would have put the Green candidate first and Sadiq Khan in second place. Now it looks like they've simply been pushing Sadiq Khan as their one and only vote. So actually, it could be that ULEZ has lost Sadiq Khan votes, but in other places it's actually gained him some votes.
Yes, because it may also be attributed to the change in the electoral system, because it's first past the post now, was before, after 50%, then, you know, they had to get 50% and so on and so forth. But now, do you think that this has actually helped Sadiq Khan? Because a lot of people would have seen it as a negative thing.
I think perhaps it has helped Sadiq Khan because there are more parties that swing vaguely towards the left than swing towards the right, the Lib Dems and the Greens, to name the most important two. Now, in London, it has always been a two-horse race between Labour and the Conservatives, and it looks like what's happened is Lib Dem voters and Green voters, instead of voting for the candidate of their own party, have just thrown their weight behind Sadiq Khan as their one and only vote. So it could be that in a situation like this, in a two-horse race, in a system where most parties swing towards the left, the Labour candidate has actually been helped by the first-past-the-post introduction.
Interesting. Olivia Utley, thank you so much. Really good to talk to you. Well, that was Olivia Utley. She's there in City Hall. We'll hopefully continue to bring you the full results of the mayoral elections there and obviously across the country. But next, Lee Anderson MP will be in the political hot seat to shine a light on the latest on the migration row and mayoral elections. That's on the way.
Hello there, welcome to your latest weather for GB News. It's a mixed outlook, largely cloudy over the next 24 hours, particularly across the north of the UK, best of the sunshine in the south. Why? Well, generally low pressure dominates the weather pattern this system, bringing some heavier rain through Bank Holiday Monday, showers elsewhere. And through the rest of the day, we've got this area of cloud across Northern Ireland, Northern England into Scotland, giving some showery outbreaks of rain, this heavy at times, clearing skies overnight elsewhere. With light winds, we'll see some mist and fog patches forming. Later on, this weather system starts to increase the cloud and bring some rain across the far southwest. Under the clearer skies, temperatures in single figures, so a chilly start to Sunday morning. Some mist and fog patches quickly clearing, then plenty of sunshine through the central swathe of the UK. It remains generally cloudy across Northern Ireland, Northern England and Scotland through the day. Some patchy rain possible here, some heavier showers later. And this weather system slowly pushes northeastwards inland a little further, bringing cloud and rain to some southern parts of England and Wales. In the best of the sunshine, temperatures approaching 19 or 20 Celsius. Under the cloud, still feeling quite chilly. And a misty, murky start to Bank Holiday Monday. But again, this central part of the UK seeing the best of the sunshine as that morning mist and murk disappears, and then over the next few days we'll see high pressure starting to build in. It will settle down, we'll see more in the way of sunny spells and temperatures begin to rise.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Welcome. If you just tuned in, where have you been? It's all right, it's fine. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. It's coming up to 46 minutes after 3 o'clock and it's time for this week's Political Spotlight. So joining me to shine a light is Lee Anderson MP. Now, last week, Lee was in Blackpool, a favourite holiday destination for many British families for over 100 years, but also an area that's reportedly more recently also been the home to many asylum seekers. He videoed what he saw. Take a look, have a listen.
I'm actually Member of Parliament for Ashfield, Reform Member of Parliament for Ashfield, in Blackpool campaigning. I'm going to take you down this alley. Now, bear in mind, this street here would have probably been 50 or 60 years ago, probably full of, traditional British families. There would probably be kids would be playing in this alley. There would be washing strung from house to house, would have been clean. Sort of poor housing, but people, very working class people, very respectful of the area they live in. Now, this area's been flooded with migrants living in houses of multiple occupancy. Just look at the state of it as we walk down. Can you see there's nappies, there's food, there's, well, all sorts of filth. It's absolutely disgraceful, and I think I feel sorry for the council. They've got an ongoing job. There's a dead pigeon down there. That's delightful.
Well. Listen, I'm joined now by Reform UK's MP Lee Anderson. Lee, thank you so much for joining me. Tell me what you saw. Tell me what you saw.
Well, it was, I'll tell you what I did see, Nana, is a big change from the last time I'd been to Blackpool. I used to go to Blackpool for our weekends away to see the lights, the illuminations. Lovely place, went as a child, lots of happy memories. But, on this last occasion we went door knocking, we went canvassing, and the filth we could see behind these terraced houses was incredible. It was like going to a third world country. And shortly after that clip, what happened then? Well, obviously, the following day, I put it on Twitter, put it on Facebook, and I got a lot of abuse from from Labour supporters in Blackpool. But hey presto, Nana, just a couple of days, like 48 hours, the council have been out and cleaned it up. If I'm going to be honest, it's not the council's job to do that, really. I know they should keep the streets clean. But this is filth thrown out from the houses of these HMOs. I mean, if that had been my council leader, I'd have been lobbing that rubbish back into their garden and telling them to clean it up and put it in the dustbin and save some taxpayers' money. Absolutely disgusting. And ironically, this was, of course, in Blackpool, which Reform did pretty well in Blackpool. Yeah, we did really well, actually. We got, I was saying on GB News, I'd be happy with 15% of the vote. We got nearly 17%. It was, it wasn't a high turnout, but it just shows you, Nana, that the word is spreading. People are getting fed up with mainstream politics, and we're growing. We're a new party, relatively new, and more people are contacting us. In a general election with a much higher turnout, I'm sure we'd fare much better and get at least second place. Well, it was a very good performance by Reform, and it shows that there is a potential for them. Now, and I'm glad to see that area was cleaned up. It's just a state of things these days. And of course, we were just going through the mayoral elections now, and Wes Streeting put up a tweet which I thought was totally unacceptable. A win for Susan Hall and the Conservatives is a win for racists, white supremacists and Islamophobes the world over. Suzanne Hall's campaign has been fought from the gutter with dangerous and divisive politics. London, we cannot let her win. Vote Sadiq. I mean, Lee, seriously. What you said, I think, was less bad than this. You got into so much trouble for this. He seems to have just rolled away with this. Well, I mean, his nickname in Parliament is Weasel Wes, in Wes Street. And this is a man, by the way, Nana, that just, I think it was a couple of years ago, he put a tweet out to threaten to throw a journalist under a train. Now he's talking this nonsense, calling people white supremacists and racist. It's quite clear to me, and anybody watching this now, that this chap needs some anger management courses. He needs some therapy. And the sooner he gets it, the better. It's dangerous.
Well, obviously, he's not here to defend himself, but, you know, it's putting out comments like that, to me, if you're going to be leading, potentially, as we've seen that Labour have done incredibly well in the elections, in the local elections, and also even the mayoral elections, I'm concerned about that sort of language and somebody who's talking in that way. What do you think about with regard to the Tories now? Because they're up that creek without a paddle by the looks of things.
Well, it's just a shame, and you know, a lot of these councillors, Nana, that lost the seats over the past couple of days, these are people I've met in person. These are people I've campaigned with. I've been to probably over 100 associations over the past 2 or 3 years and spoke to these people and raised money for them. Some good, hard-working people, and there is in all parties at local level. I think at local level, you get involved in politics because you want your area to be a better place. But the problem with that is when the main party, the MPs, mess it up, and normally the party in government, they're making a big hash of things. It's the foot soldiers, the real people, the volunteers, the councillors that bear the brunt of all the mistakes. And unfortunately, they've lost their jobs. Meanwhile, the Conservative Party carry on. I said it 3 years ago. They're like the band on the Titanic. You see what's coming, but they're doing sod all about it. And they're going down with the ship.
Well, what are your thoughts about the fact that you left the party? Are you pleased with that move? In your view, was that the right thing to do?
I didn't actually leave, Nana.
Well, you know what I mean? Yeah, you had to kind of go, didn't you?
I was kicked out.
I've been polite.
Thrown out. I was thrown out of the party. He's not nice being sat on the opposite bench as teammates. A lot of them in that corner are still my friends. And bear in mind, I'm sat with like George Galloway and Jeremy Corbyn now. I have to pinch myself sometimes and think I've woke up in a different world. But hey, it is what it is. At least the Reform Party are appealing to the sort of voters that I want to get on board in Ashfield. These are people that love their country. These are people that's tough on law and order. These are people that want to secure our borders, and live that traditional British way of life and be respectful and be welcoming to people from other countries that come here through the legal routes, not the illegal routes.
Well, it looks like we've definitely got a Labour mayor. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I've got to be careful what I say about the Labour mayor. I don't want to give him too much of a hard time. He's absolutely useless. He's been a disaster for this country. He's been a disaster for London, and he needs booting out at the next mayoral election in 4 years' time. He's an absolute disaster for our capital city. And you'll see over the next 4 years what he does to that city. He'll rob the motorist blind, knife crime will go up, violent crime will go up, and he'll be sneering away in his ivory tower. And I will keep calling him out.
Well, obviously he would say that people must want him in London. They have voted for him repeatedly. He's democratically elected, even though despite the record doesn't look that great. But he would say those things, and he would be right in saying that people have voted for him to continue.
Yeah, they've voted for 4 more years of increase in knife crime, 4 more years of poverty, 4 more years of the motorists getting robbed, and 4 more years of misery for the people of London. This is a problem with devolvement in this country now. It doesn't work. We've now got another layer of mayors up and down the country in the East Midlands. It does not work. All it does is hand power to power-crazed individuals who are intent on just pushing their own agenda forward. It's dangerous and it's not good for this country. Get rid of them.
Wow, interesting. Lee Anderson, thank you so much for joining me. Really good to talk to you. Appreciate your time this afternoon. That is Lee Anderson, MP for Reform UK. This is GB News. Just gone 54 minutes after 3 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. Coming up, I'll be joined by my amazing panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also former Labour Party advisor Matthew Lauser. Next up, Nana's Niggle. What is wrong with Rwanda? Now, though, let's pick up your latest weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest weather for GB News. It's a mixed outlook, largely cloudy over the next 24 hours, particularly across the north of the UK, best of the sunshine in the south. Why? Well, generally low pressure dominates the weather pattern this system, bringing some heavier rain through Bank Holiday Monday, showers elsewhere. And through the rest of the day, we've got this area of cloud across Northern Ireland, Northern England into Scotland, giving some showery outbreaks of rain, this heavy at times, clearing skies overnight elsewhere. With light winds, we'll see some mist and fog patches forming. Later on, this weather system starts to increase the cloud and bring some rain across the far southwest. Under the clearest skies, temperatures in single figures, so a chilly start to Sunday morning. Some mist and fog patches quickly clearing, then plenty of sunshine through the central swathe of the UK. It remains generally cloudy across Northern Ireland, Northern England and Scotland through the day. Some patchy rain possible here, some heavier showers later. And this weather system slowly pushes northeastwards inland a little further, bringing cloud and rain to some southern parts of England and Wales. In the best of the sunshine, temperatures approaching 19 or 20 Celsius. Under the cloud, still feeling quite chilly. And a misty, murky start to Bank Holiday Monday. But again, this central part of the UK seeing the best of the sunshine as that morning mist and murk disappears, and then over the next few days we'll see high pressure starting to build in. It will settle down, we'll see more in the way of sunny spells and temperatures begin to rise.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. You're watching and listening to GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. More to come in the next hour, including my niggle, Nana's niggle. What's wrong with Rwanda?
The next Great British Giveaway winner could be you, with a massive £20,000 in tax-free cash to be won. Imagine how you'd react getting that winning call from us.
Hi, my name's Phil Cox and I won the Great British Giveaway. I'd say why not? It's what is it, the price of a text and £2 to enter. And if I can win it, anybody can win it. And they're going to get even more money this time round, so why wouldn't you go in the draw?
For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is GB News,
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of those big topics that are hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today is broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy and also former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza. Coming up, Nana's niggle. What's wrong with Rwanda, or the big Stockholm for that matter, or in fact any accommodation we see fit to give people when they come here in search of asylum from the safety of France. Then, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is this the end of the Tory party as we know it? My difficult conversation now, very exciting, because I'll be joined in the studio by Married at First Sight star and florist Rosalin Darlington, also known as Ros. And then my mini debate, Boris Johnson had a mishap with trying to vote in the local elections. We'll find out more later. But first, let's get your latest news with Sam Francis.
Nana, thank you very much and good afternoon to you. It is exactly 4 o'clock and the top story this hour. Labour has claimed 2 more victories in the local elections in England in another blow to the Conservatives. Andy Burnham won the contest in Greater Manchester, while Tracy Brabin's been named as the Mayor of West Yorkshire. Ben Houchin's win yesterday for the Conservatives in Teesside was a rare bright spot for Rishi Sunak. However, overall, the Conservatives have suffered huge losses, with hundreds of seats going to opposition parties. Sir Keir Starmer claims Labour's results in the local elections are a direct message to the Prime Minister, as he renewed demands for him to call a general election.
I think the message here is very, very clear. And I think across the East Midlands there's been a sending of that message to the government, which is we're fed up with your division, with your chaos, with your failure. 14 years. And I'm sorry, I don't care which political party you support. If you leave your country in a worse state than when you found it 14 years later, you do not deserve to be in government for a moment longer.
Well, speaking to us earlier, Andrew Griffith, the Minister for Science, Innovation and Technology, said that the public don't want Labour's policies.
Yeah, look, it's a difficult set of results. I think that was what was expected going in. There's going to be a very simple choice at the next election. Who walks through number 10 Downing Street? Is it Rishi Sunak with his plan that's starting to work now? Or is it Keir with no plan, or where they do have plans that don't really go with the grain of what the British people want?
Well, let's take a quick look at the current standings of those results across England this afternoon. If you're watching on television, you can see here those results as they stand at this stage. Labour now gaining control of 8 councils, up to a total of 50. And a headline figure from the Liberal Democrats. They have now won more council seats overall than the Conservatives. And we're still waiting for mayoral results in London and the West Midlands this afternoon, which we will bring to you here throughout this afternoon. Boris Johnson has thanked polling staff who refused to let him vote without ID. The former Prime Minister was turned away from a polling station on Thursday after he forgot his valid identification. Writing for the Daily Mail, Mr Johnson said that 3 villagers were right to stick to the rules. The requirement to provide photo ID was introduced by Boris Johnson when he occupied number 10. In other news, the family of a 14-year-old boy who was killed in a samurai sword attack have said they are devastated by his death. Daniel Angerin was stabbed to death as he walked to school on Tuesday morning this week. 4 other people, including 2 police officers, were also injured. Marcos Monzo, a Spanish-Brazilian dual national, was charged with murdering the teenager and appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court on Thursday. More than 30,000 people in East Sussex are still without water this afternoon. That's due to a burst main. Southern Water says the disruption in St Leonards-on-Sea and parts of Hastings will continue into tomorrow. Bottled drinks are being provided to some of those affected, while schools, a leisure centre and a theatre in the area have all been forced to close. Dozens of migrants in 2 small boats have crossed the English Channel today from France. Drone footage showed a French naval vessel following them until they reached English waters. Their largely male passengers were taken aboard a British Border Force vessel off the coast of Dover. More than 8,000 people have so far arrived this year, in a new record for that period. 3 people have been charged after protesters blocked a coach taking asylum seekers to Dorset to the Bibby Stockholm barge. The Metropolitan Police arrested 45 people yesterday after officers were called on Thursday morning to Peckham in south-east London. The demonstrators could be heard chanting, "No borders, no nations, stop deportations." 3 have now been charged with obstruction of the highway. And motorists are being warned to expect heavy traffic this bank holiday weekend. According to the RAC, around 3 million vehicles will take to the roads today alone. An increase in day trips and short breaks could mean that local routes are congested, and train strikes between Tuesday and the following Saturday could also lead to most roads being much busier. For the latest stories, you can sign up to GB News Alerts. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to our website, gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sam. Right, well, if you just join me, welcome. It's just coming up to 6 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua. We are the People's Channel, and don't forget, you can download the GB News app. But what's wrong with Rwanda? Or the Bibby Stockholm, or, in fact, any accommodation we see fit to give people when they come here in search of asylum from the safety of France? After all, they could legitimately have been given a tent, like in Greece. In fact, it would seem that many on the left, and in particular those who do not have to deal with the fallout directly, are dead set against anything short of high-end accommodation for people who have travelled to this country legally. Here are a bunch of students who clearly have nothing better to do with their day, trying to stop a load of migrants getting onto a coach bound for the Bibby Stockholm. No sign of any people of colour, despite this being in the heart of Peckham, by the way, which is full of people of colour. But here are a group of mainly white and, I'm going to assume, middle-class individuals trying to hold up a coach bound for the Bibby Stockholm. And I'm assuming that they are middle-class because the migrants are getting better treatment than most of the people living in poverty in this country, and I'm sure many of them would be thankful for fully paid-up accommodation, food, safety, warmth and money. Which is also what Rwanda is offering. The Republic of Ireland was so po-faced about our Rwanda policy that they declared the United Kingdom an unsafe country because of it. Bear in mind that the policy is targeted at failed asylum seekers who have crossed the channel via dinghy and who will need to be sent to a third country if they fail asylum. So a third country will always be needed unless we intend to keep every failed asylum seeker. Now, since the new Rwanda bill, the government of the Republic disclosed that migrants are fleeing Northern Ireland for the Republic, so there's no chance of them being caught in a Rwanda draft. The Republic want to now declare the UK a safe country so that we can take them back. Rishi invited the Republic to join the scheme, but they turned him down. But what's wrong with Rwanda? Rwanda has lower knife crime, lower murder rates, lower burglaries than here in the UK. Rwanda has a 61% female parliament, and by all counts, and is one of the safest places for women. That can hardly be said about here. In fact, you could argue that the accommodation provided in Rwanda is far superior to anything that we can provide here. They're not happy with the Bibby. So Keir Starmer's party has said that they will stop the Rwanda policy, even if it is working. Well, I'd like to see him try. What's the alternative? All these so-called do-gooders are ultimately perpetuating a trade in people with no viable alternative. But some breaking news. Labour's Sadiq Khan has secured a third term as Mayor of London, beating Conservative candidate Susan Hall. The formal announcement will be made at City Hall shortly, and we'll bring you that live on GB News as it happens. Well, before we get stuck into the debates, here's what else is coming up today. For the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is this the end of the Tory party as we know it? The Conservatives have suffered heavy losses in local elections across the country, losing hundreds of seats to the opposition parties. So, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is this the end of the Tory party as we know it? Then at 4:50 is Royal Roundup time. Royal biographer Andrew Levin will be here to give us the latest from behind the palace walls. On the menu, Princess Charlotte's birthday this week. Prince Harry returns returning to the UK next week, but will he see his father? And the King returns to public duties. Then at 5, it's this week's difficult conversation. I'll be joined by Married at First Sight star Rosalin Darlington. What is it like to marry a complete and utter stranger? Well, I suppose that usually happens in most cases anyway. We learn who they are later. Well, that's coming up in the next hour. Tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say. Right, let's get started. Let's welcome again to my panel broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy and also former advisor to the Labour Party, Matthew Larser. May I say, Lizzie, you do look lovely today. I do. You
look very summery.
Thank you. It feels like summer is on its way.
Yes, yes.
And I've had another birthday.
I might come in my shorts next week.
We won't see them, so maybe...
Yeah, my birthday was the same day as the local elections, but I made sure I voted.
Very good. And as
did you take your ID with you?
I did a Boris Johnson. I forgot my ID.
No.
Oh.
And then I tried to get around it because the lady in my village hall knows me for 20 years. And I said, you know it's me. But I had to go back home. And then she really studied my passport like she didn't believe me. I was like, it's me.
She couldn't believe that was your age. Yeah, you were 21.
Exactly, that's it.
Do you know, I once went out with a guy and he showed me his passport, but it was like a picture of him like 10 years younger. It was the passport before that. I said, that ain't you.
Yeah, exactly. So I did a Boris.
Well, so what do you think of the news, though? Sadiq Khan, Mayor of London?
So I'm pleased with the news. I think all those who said it was going to be a close fight have been proved wrong, and it's looking a little bit closer than expected in the West Midlands. So we'll see what happens there later in the afternoon. But yeah, there'll be, you know, for all the things we've heard about Sadiq, he's been re-elected and he's done better than he did last time against Sean Bailey, who I sit next to on a Thursday night with Patrick. So Sean did better than Susan Hall. So yeah, but I think that, you know, whatever criticisms of Sadiq are, it's a clear sign that people in London just don't trust the Tories.
I totally disagree with you in every shape and form, Matthew. I don't think he's popular. I think the reason he got in, I don't think the Tories had a good candidate.
I agree with that. No, I agree.
Hall is a lovely lady, but she's not strong enough, not got the charisma, and she didn't have the backing of the Tories.
Would that have helped her, though? I mean, they're not popular, are they?
Well, they're not popular, but no one gave her the support, and I think she was the wrong person to go up against Khan. But I'm afraid everyone I speak to can't bear Khan. The ULEZ, which is just a con, to be honest, taxing the poorest of the working class. The hospitality business is going down under, and I don't feel safe in my city anymore. Knife crime. Look what's happened sadly this week with that poor boy. You know, the knife crime's out of control. I feel very unsafe as a woman in London, and I think it's a crying shame he's got back in again.
And briefly, Rwanda, what's gone wrong with them? I mean, why is everyone so against Rwanda and trying to demonise it?
Well, I know, I was just about to say, you wrote a wonderful piece, Nana, in the Daily Mail, saying there is a whiff of racism with this, because Rwanda is a beautiful, beautiful country, has so much to offer, and they're very strong on crime. Wish we were like that in this country. And they even have a day where the citizens go and clear all the rubbish, making it so clean and beautiful. And I don't understand why people are saying it's not safe. Do look at the facts. The capital of Rwanda is safer than our city of London.
Matthew,
in every aspect.
I think, my big objection to the Rwandan scheme isn't to Rwanda, it's to the fact that the scheme is going to cost a fortune, so it involves so few people actually going there, and not deliver value for the British taxpayer. It's not about Rwanda, it's about the scheme and the way that
what about the lives loss of people crossing the channel, though? Because that's ultimately what it's trying to do. And you can't put a price on life.
No,
right?
absolutely. And I think we need to stop the boats, but we need to stop people ever getting on the boats rather than getting on the boats.
Well, that's part of the reason.
I know that's the idea, but I really don't think it's going to work. As far as BBC Stockholm, I agree with you about the protesters in Peckham. I live down the road from Peckham, and it doesn't reflect what Peckham really looks. It's not a local
all these people. It's like you aren't from here.
No, absolutely. I mean, about 10 metres away is one of the most vibrant streets in London, absolute heart of London's Afro-Caribbean community. So, look, I mean, the people slashing tyres of the bus to stop people going to the BBC Stockholm was outrageous.
It's ridiculous.
They're just troublemakers, and I can't believe they're all wearing face masks as well. Why weren't the police doing anything about that?
They shouldn't be allowed to do that. If you're going to protest, at least show your face. I think that should be the simple rule, that if you're going to be on the streets,
I agree.
You need to show who you are. But then what about Ireland, though? Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland?
Yeah, well, it's becoming. I mean, in some ways it's funny, but it's also tragic because, you know, Ireland has always, like, sort of tried to hold the moral high ground over us, and yet as soon as reasonable numbers of asylum seekers end up there, they're panicking. And actually, you said about people putting in tents. That's actually what is being offered to people in the Republic of Ireland. They were sleeping outside the main processing office in the centre of Dublin, and they've now moved them, but they've moved them basically to tents and an army barracks in the south of Dublin. So, look, you know, we need to have a concerted approach across Europe to stop people ever getting on those boats because it puts their lives at risk, and we shouldn't have people arriving here illegally.
Why should we listen to Ireland saying to take the migrants? I mean, what has France done? We're not giving back to France all of those that have come over to us. And don't forget, we gave them £500 million. £500 million. What have the French done?
Well, I think... To me, I think, actually, the money in this respect, in a way, is slightly no object, because once you stop it, then you save money, so you need to do what you can. But let's cross Longleaf now to Olivia Utley. Let's return to our breaking news. Labour's Mayor Sadiq Khan officially secured enough votes for a third term as Mayor of London, beating Conservative Suzanne Hall. Joining me now from City Hall is GB News' political correspondent Olivia Utley. Well, Olivia, we were suspecting that this would be the case.
Absolutely. Sadiq has won an historic third term in London. He's won with a lead of about 200,000 votes, and it looks like there's actually been a swing of about 3% to Labour from the Conservatives up from 2021. So all of that chatter over the last couple of days, all of those rumours that Susan Hall might win it, might just about clinch it, might snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, or even that it was going to be much closer than was being predicted, have turned out to be wrong. That said, I mean, Sadiq Khan has won with about 10 points, about 33 to 43. And I suppose it is true to say that Labour is about 26 points ahead in the rest of the country. So critics of Sadiq Khan could argue that perhaps Labour should have gone with another candidate to get an even stronger lead in London. That said, the ULEZ factor seems to have played, weirdly enough, in Sadiq Khan's favour. It was thought that given what happened in Uxbridge last year, one of those areas of the donut of London, the outside of London, where the Conservative Party managed to hold on to the seat in a shock by-election victory, it was thought that something similar might play out in these local elections. Actually, what's happened is, yes, the Conservatives have won some of those outer London areas, but there hasn't been a swing to the Conservatives, or if there has, it's been very, very small indeed. And it could be argued that ULEZ has helped Sadiq Khan in that the Green vote in London seems to have completely collapsed, perhaps because Green Party voters have voted for Sadiq Khan instead of their own candidate. One way or another, it is a pretty good day yet again for Labour, and it'll be fascinating to see what happens in the wider Conservative Party over the next few days. Yesterday, it was said that the plotters had given up, were going home. Yes, the Conservatives were doing badly, but not badly enough for them to move against Sunak. Now Sadiq Khan has won London with a pretty impressive margin, and it looks just possible that Labour could win the West Midlands, unseating Andy Street. Might those plotters start whispering again? And could we see those letters of no confidence in Rishi Sunak start to come in as early as next week?
God, let's hope not, for God's sake. Olivia Utley, thank you so much. Really good to talk to you. That is our political correspondent, Olivia Utley, there, breaking those results in the mayoral elections. Just brings it to my panel. Yes, so that's it, Sadiq Khan.
I think that's a really good point that Olivia was making about the Green vote, because previously it was a preferential system where people could transfer. So people thought we could vote Green on the first round and then transfer to Sadiq on the second round. And it seems that voters have clocked the electoral system had changed, that if you wanted Sadiq, you needed to vote for him. And secondly, I think with Green voters who are clearly in favour of ULEZ, and they almost saw themselves as protecting Sadiq against the Tories because of ULEZ, rightly or wrongly. So I think that's a really good point.
This is such a sad day for our city. I mean, a city thrives when it's moving, and this city's come to a halt. We can't go over 20 miles an hour. We have ULEZ. It's hurting people. They can't see their families, and disabled, you know, the working class man. Taxi drivers, it goes on and on and on. I think it's a real shame.
I think you're right that the Tories should have put a stronger candidate up.
Yes, they should have.
Susan Hall is not a candidate with mass recognition.
I think you should have limited terms, so you could only be a mayor, say, twice, like in
I think
America.
he needs to stop at 3, certainly.
I don't think you should be allowed to carry on like that, because it's just... It becomes almost like a dictatorship.
It is. It is indeed.
Listen.
And
I think you two should stand as a job share.
Not a bad idea. I'll make the hospitality business go up again.
Yeah, and I'll deal with the knives.
Yes.
I could be your deputy.
No, right, fair enough.
No, Matthew, you're both.
No. Right, well, welcome aboard. If you've just tuned in, this is GBNews. You may not have heard the news, but of course Sadiq Khan has won a third mayoral term as the Mayor of London. We'll bring you the results in the Midlands very shortly. But coming up, Royal Roundup time, Angela Levin will be here to give us the latest from behind the palace walls. Lots of things on the menu. But next, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, is this the end of the Tory party as we know it? I've got a poll up right now on X asking you that very question. Is this the end of the Tory party as we know it? Get in touch at gbnews.com/your say.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Prince Harry, remember him? He appears to have fully turned his back on the UK as he listed his primary residence as the United States for the very first time in papers published yesterday. So interestingly, Harry listed the date on the formal US residency forms as the 29th of June 2023, last year. So that was the very same day he was kicked out of Frogmore Cottage in Great Windsor Park by his dad, the King. Charlotte, thank you for joining me.
Okay.
Are we just putting two and two together here with the significance of this date? Because there were stories during the rounds today that Harry chose that date specifically because he was so hurt about being booted out of Frogmore by his dad.
Yeah, I mean, to me it feels like he's trolling his dad a bit, because he could have said that he's been a US resident since 2020 when he quit the UK and moved to the States, but instead he chose the exact day that his dad kicked him out of Frogmore. But the reason his dad kicked him out of Frogmore was because he'd slagged off Camilla in Spare. And, you know, and his dad, apparently it was a really difficult decision for Charles, because, of course, no dad wants to kick their son out of their home. But he went beyond the pale. So Charles took the difficult decision to say, look, Frogmore's been empty for years anyway. We've spent £2.4 million doing it up for you. And now you've, you know, insulted our family in your book, Spare. Why is he so hung up on Frogmore? Because this is the country he was desperate to get away from. This is a house he didn't particularly want to live in and, in fact, didn't live in.
Well, he was forced, by the way, to pay £2.5 million to fund the renovations after it all kicked off. I mean, would that have anything to do with...
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that sort of galvanised his anger towards the whole situation. He thought he was getting a fantastic freebie. And there was, you know, there were a few reports at the time that Meghan actually thought she was moving into Frogmore House, which is a much grander property. And she sort of felt a bit sort of tricked or confused and hadn't quite realised it was actually a cottage, which is only a mere, I think it was only a mere 8 bedrooms.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Sunday nights on GB News. From 6, Neil Oliver. At 7, it's Free Speech Nation with Andrew Doyle. At 9, Mark Dolan. And at 11, get set for the week ahead with headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, 23 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. Don't forget as well, you can stream the show live on YouTube. I'm Nana Akua. And it's time for the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, is this the end of the Tory party as we know it? The Conservatives have suffered heavy losses in the local elections, losing hundreds of seats to opposition parties across the country. And in a further blow, Labour's claimed victory in several major mayoral races today. Sadiq Khan has won another term in London. Andy Burnham won the contest in Greater Manchester, whilst Tracy Brabham has been named as the Mayor of West Yorkshire. And the results have been labelled near catastrophic. And many say it is the worst the Conservatives have done in local elections for decades. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is this the end of the Tory party as we know it? Well, joining me to discuss, UKIP leader Neil Hamilton, journalist Kevin Schofield, author and broadcaster Rebecca Reid, and former Labour MP Dennis McShane. Right, so I'm going to start with you, Dennis McShane. Is this the end of them?
It's the end of this Tory party unless they change. If they keep going on as they have done for the last, about 10 years, 10 years, yes, they'll never get re-elected. But the Tory party keeps coming back 200 years. They lose big and you think they're out forever. And then normal people emerge. Somewhere in there, that great party, many of your guests, Nana, there are normal Tory MPs, but they just haven't been cited in the last few years.
They are, really. What do you think? Have they been cited? Right, let's go to Kevin Schofield, author and journalist.
No, I don't think it is the end of the Conservative Party. I mean, they're not the most successful political party in the Western world for nothing. They've been in worse positions than this. I would say in the 1997 general election, they were in a terrible state. I remember they were wiped out in Wales, wiped out in Scotland. It looked like they were dead then, and yet they did come back. It took them a while, but they did come back. So I think I wouldn't write them off just yet, but there's no doubt that they do need to. I think they need a spell in opposition to decide what type of party they want to be, regroup, re-energise, and then come back again. But a lot will depend as well how quickly that happens on how many MPs they get elected at the general election. Come back with fewer than 150, then I think you're looking at least 10 years in opposition.
Rebecca Reid.
Yes, I think it is, but I think if you like the Tory party, it's probably a good thing. I think this might have been a kind of euthanasia for this weird divided party with all different levels of all these factions coming out and infighting and then basically behaving like teenage girls. So I think this might be the shot across the bows that they need. They need 10 years to polish up some new talent, think about things properly and get on with it. And then they might actually be a decent party when they come back. Who knows?
But some people might say that's a bit sexist, though. You said that they're behaving like teenage girls. Some people might say...
a teenage girl.
Like... Neil Hamilton.
Well, it should be the end of the Tory party as we've known it in the last 13 years. But who knows? Because the party that survives in Parliament after this election will probably still be in the image of David Cameron as a result of the candidate selection processes that he imposed, which meant that more and more people like him became Tory MPs and real Tories weren't allowed a look in. And that's the big problem we've got. It's nothing to do particularly with the personalities of leaders. It's all to do with the Tories having quite spectacularly alienated their core supporters by failing over a whole range of policies, from immigration through huge green taxes everybody's now got to pay, through the highest tax levels that we've had since the Attlee government in the 1940s. And I could go on and on and on. They've been governing as closet social democrats, not as real conservatives. Until that changes, the Tories will not succeed in getting elected. Although, I think it's fair to say that there's no great enthusiasm for Starmer and the modern Labour Party. And it's really an ugly contest rather than the beauty contest. And it's the don't knows and don't cares who will win the next election, I would guess. Look at the poll rate, the scale of the polls. This time, 30% polls roughly is what 70% couldn't be bothered to go out and vote.
Let me bring on Dennis McShane. Dennis McShane, look, I think it's actually a slightly more serious problem than that, and it's the way that they've changed people. So, how many health secretaries have they had? I mean, they've had 10 education secretaries. They've had, I think it's 8 home secretaries. It's just been ridiculous.
It has. But look at what happened to Labour after 2015. We went and embraced Jeremy Corbyn, lost 2017, were absolutely crushed in 2019. We had those long years in the wilderness, and then the party just did wake up. Parties do wake up. The Conservative Party after 1997, when Tony Blair came in, thought the answer is to be anti-European, and William Hague just became nuttily opposed to Europe. He was crushed in the 2001 election, and blow me down, the Tories doubled down with Ian Duncan-Smith and Michael Howard, nice men, obsessing, banging on about Europe, and then they found David Cameron, and things started to look better because he was moderate, he was normal, he's in the middle of the road. I think that will happen to them again.
Do you think?
But they might decide to go right down into that right-wing, anti-European, sort of funny little rabbit hole. In that case, Starmer is good for 10 years.
Good for 10 years, do you think, Kevin? Starmer is good for 10 years?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, you should never underestimate Labour's ability to shoot itself in the foot, So I wouldn't say that the next election is completely in the bag, although all the opinion polls and the local election results would suggest it would take an incredible turnaround for the Conservatives not to lose the next election. But no, I mean, I do agree with Dennis there that I think there is clearly, I think what will happen after the next election, they will have to have a period of introspection, trying to decide what they want to do. And the decision that they take, I think, will then influence how long they're in opposition, because I've no doubt that they will come back eventually, but it could be a very long time if they decide, I think, to veer off to the right, leaving moderate voters behind, because
Do you mean become conservative? I find it interesting that people call this. I find it interesting that people call them being conservative rearing off towards the right as if it's a far right position. It's just that's what conservatism is. It's more of a right wing position, and they certainly haven't held that. Rebecca, I want to ask you then: do you think that they are now at risk of becoming the third party?
I don't know if it's that. I think it depends whether they lean into their instinct to become socially conservative. And I think right now there is a faction party that wants to just go, okay, we'll be conservative in an American sense, and we'll be anti anything that has historically been liberal, so gay marriage, abortion, etc., etc. And if that happens, I think that will be the nail in their coffin, because the great thing about the Tories under David Cameron is that, and I have a lot of good things to say about the Tories, is that yes, they did try to be politically conservative, but they did bring in things like equal marriage. And I think if they turn that social on that all-encompassing, welcoming, more traditionally left-wing attitude, that really will be dangerous for them.
Right, thank you so much, Rebecca Reid. Really good to talk to you. Also, Dennis McShane, Neil Hamilton and Kevin Schofield. Lovely. Great to have your thoughts. What do you think? This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, we'll continue with the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, is this the end of the Tory party as we know it? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, Lizzie Cundy and Matthew Laza. Still to come, my difficult conversation. Married at First Sight star Roz will be here. But first, let's get your latest news with Sam Francis.
Good afternoon to you. It's just after 4:30. A recap of the headlines from the newsroom this hour. Labour has now picked up another 3 victories in England, with majorities in Greater Manchester, West Yorkshire and the London local elections. Andy Burnham, Tracy Brabin and, in the last few minutes, Sadiq Khan have all been re-elected. Mr Khan secured his 3rd term as London Mayor with 44% of the vote, beating his nearest rival, Conservative candidate Susan Hall, who was on 33% of the vote. And we're still awaiting the results for the West Midlands and Salford. And we're just hearing, in fact, regarding that result in the West Midlands, that what's known as a partial bundle recount has been ordered for that election. And piles of ballot papers, in fact, have been moved back onto desks in Birmingham, where counting has been taking place in preparation for the checks to take place. We will keep across that for you throughout the rest of this afternoon. In other news, the family of Daniel Angerin say they're devastated after he was killed walking to school in London on Tuesday. The 14-year-old, who's been described as loving and precious, was attacked by a man with a sword. 4 other people, including 2 police officers, were also injured. Marcos Monzo, a Spanish-Brazilian dual national, was charged with murdering the teenager, and he appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court earlier this week. Southern Water insists it is working flat out to restore supplies to tens of thousands of homes in East Sussex. More than 30,000 people in the area are still without water this afternoon due to a burst main. Bottled drinks are now being handed out to some of those affected, with disruption expected to continue through the weekend. And dozens of migrants in 2 small boats have crossed the Channel today. Footage captured the moment a French vessel followed the boats until it reached English waters. The passengers, most of the men, were taken aboard a British Border Force vessel off the coast of Dover. And it brings the total number of people arriving this year to more than 8,300, a new record for that period. That's the latest from the newsroom, more at 4 o'clock. Until then, you can sign up to GB News Alerts. Just scan the code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now, though, it's back to Nana.
Good afternoon. Coming up to 34 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua. Coming up, well, roundup time. Royal biographer Angela Levin will be live in the studio to give you the latest from behind the palace walls. Next, we continue with the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, is this the end of the Tory party as we know it? Get in touch now.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Scotland, home of Humza Yousaf's hate crime law, aka the Clype's Charter.
Clype, a delightfully Scottish word for a grass, a snitch, or in the context of Russell Finley's opening gambit during the hate crime debate at Holyrood last week, reporting your friends, family and neighbours to the police for alleged hate crimes. The SNP responded by doubling down on the new law's ability to protect vulnerable victims.
I am confident that we have robust legislation that will protect those who are vulnerable to harm.
But other victims are emerging in the wake of this new legislation. As the bill moved through Parliament, concerns rose of police inundated with vexatious complaints, targeting individuals who had committed no crimes. The first fortnight of the new law gave rise to nearly 9,000 complaints.
The vast majority, at least 95%, have been deemed not to be crimes.
False reporting is nothing new. A social post from Scottish Conservative Murdo Fraser was flagged by a trans rights activist in November.
Police decided that no crime had been committed, but nevertheless that was recorded as a non-crime hate incident.
And Alba Westminster leader Neil Hanvey says he too has been targeted under pre-existing legislation.
I've been the victim of at least one of those complaints, and that's taken up the time of police officers.
Thick skin can be expected of our elected officials, but what about the public? 74-year-old Morag McDougall-Brown says she was reported to police by a neighbour, and the experience has taken its toll.
I hate to think that anybody like me or similar to my age would ever have to go through this, because I really don't think I will ever go over it.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading it. It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, 37 minutes after 4 o'clock. A very exciting day here on GB News. There's so many more results still to come. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's time now for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, is this the end of the Tory party as we know it? The Conservatives have suffered heavy losses in the local elections, losing hundreds of seats to opposition parties across the country. And, of course, in a further blow, Labour have claimed victory in several major mayoral races today. The results have been labelled near catastrophic, and many say it's the worst the Conservatives have done in local elections for decades. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is this the end of the Tory party as we know it? Well, let's see what my panel make of that. Joining me now, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also former Labour Party advisor Matthew Lauser. All right. Well, first of all, I think I'll come to you because you are a Labour man.
I am. So I think it's the end of the Tory party in its current incarnation. I think that they're going to lose the next general election. I think we need the general election as soon as possible. I think we've seen from results across the country the discontent that there is with the Tory party. So let's put them out of their misery, have the general election, let the people have their say. And then I think they're going to have to take a long, hard look at themselves and work out what they really stand for. And also they need to find a leader leader that they can stick with. And we heard Olivia earlier saying, well, we know the rumblings about Sadiq sort of went down. About Sadiq, about Rishi went down a bit on Friday. We think there may be rumbling again. We can't have this. We need a party which has a leader and a sort of strategy that they can believe in. And I don't think they have that at the moment, and that's shown how the people have voted.
Well, I just don't get why they would even be talking about changing a leader at this point.
I mean, it's pathetic. It's like having a losing football team at the bottom of the division with 2 matches to go, and they change their manager, thinking there's going to make a difference. That's the analogy.
Even when it's statistically impossible.
Exactly. That is it. I mean, look, I'm sorry. The Tories are a disaster. It's catastrophic. Rishi is toast and the Tories are over, and that's fact. And you know what? They've done it all to themselves. All that in-house fighting. You know, if they'd kept Boris, I don't believe this would have happened. But they couldn't help themselves. Instead of fighting each other, they should be more fighting for this country and fighting against the opposition, the Labour Party. They've totally done it to themselves.
They've become their own opposition, basically.
Absolutely. Well, they're oppositions. Because you remember the 5 families? I can't remember how many there are.
Which ones were they? We had Don Corleone Francois.
Don Corleone Francois as the leader. You had the Northern lot, this research group, that research group.
Oh, God.
I mean, it's just absolutely ludicrous. And look, I know from our own, from our own experience in the Labour Party, when you're fighting amongst yourselves and you're just talking amongst yourselves, you're not listening to the country. When we do that, we fail with the public, quite rightly. And when the Tories are doing that now, they're failing with the public because people think that they're only interested in themselves and battling on who's up, who's down, and not actually delivering on the people's priorities.
Yeah, and Rishi's got to stop the spin of this disaster. He really does. I mean, he's spinning more than a Ferris wheel with this. And, you know, I'd be a shrinking violet. I mean, even even his suits are looking baggy. But I've got to say, you know, there's Keir Starmer, proud as punched with his chest out. Really? Is this the guy we want as Prime Minister? And I know I always say it, who doesn't know what a woman is? That really, really worries me. What our future is.
Very clear what a woman is now.
Yeah,
well, now he knows.
It took him 2 years, let's be honest. It took him 2 years.
He should have been a little bit clearer earlier on. But I think the thing about Keir is that he's got that kind of quiet, strong leadership that we need, and he's got his party united behind him. And anybody who thought 5 years ago the party he'd be able to transform the party would have been met with scepticism.
But you know,
I think that when you say transform the party, you're slightly delusional. Nothing has transformed. The Tories have just simply made a mess.
I think both have
an 80-seat majority.
Labour are getting in because of the disaster of the Tories. And you know, I'm sorry, Starmer has his speeches written by Tony Blair, Peter Mandelson. He has one strapline. His today is turning the page. And it's a worry for our future. I'm worried with him in charge.
Well, listen, this show's nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome our great British voices, their opportunity to be on the show and tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing. Where should we head to? Oh, straight there. We went straight in for you, Lee. Come in, Lee. What do you think, Lee? Is this the end of the Tory party as we know it?
Yes, without a doubt. The Tories are in a death spiral completely of their own making.
Dear.
And as we know, Professor John Curtis said there's a 99% chance the Tories are going to lose the next election. I think he's wrong. I think it's actually 100% chance they're going to get obliterated. It's a foregone conclusion, and part of me, Nana, thinks that they deserve it. People are fed up, me included, of being lied to, especially on things like immigration and Brexit. They make promises they have no intention of keeping, and people can see straight through it. I really do sense a tangible hatred for the Conservatives among their voter base, and I can't blame them. All they want are real Conservatives to vote for, and there aren't many of those left in the country. And as Lizzie rightly pointed out, it's been a catalogue of completely preventable errors. You know, the arrogant Tory wets installed Rishi Sunak, who nobody wanted, and as we know, he's about popular as a fart in a lift. And what's frustrating, Matthew is completely wrong on this. There is clearly no love for Labour at all. They are winning seats. We can see it in the statistics. They're winning seats in local elections and by-elections with less votes than they got last time. This is going to be a story of Conservative voters staying at home. The only thing, I'll finish on this now, the only thing that the Conservatives can hope for is that the polling, the appalling by-election results and the local election results is a protest vote from Conservative voters. When it comes to election day, they'll hold their nose and vote Conservatives, but I am not convinced they will. I'm not even convinced that I will.
I don't think
Why
so.
would people vote to reward failure now? It's over.
Well, I mean... I don't want to laugh. I slightly feel embarrassed for voting. I almost feel embarrassed for voting for them because at the time they were a cohesive, sensible party. I have no idea what's happened to them. Lee Harris, a pleasure. Thank you so much. And so succinct and so right. Right. Lee Harris, our great British voice, still to come. My difficult conversation. Joining me, Married at First Sight star Ros Darlington. She'll be live to tell us what it's like to marry a complete and utter stranger. But next, Angela Levin will be here to give us the latest from behind the palace walls. Lots of things on the menu in my Royal Roundup.
Hello there, welcome to your latest weather for GB News. It's a mixed outlook, largely cloudy over the next 24 hours, particularly across the north of the UK, best of the sunshine in the south. Why? Well, generally low pressure dominates the weather pattern this system, bringing some heavier rain through Bank Holiday Monday, showers elsewhere. And through the rest of the day, we've got this area of cloud across Northern Ireland, Northern England into Scotland, giving some showery outbreaks of rain, this heavy at times, clearing skies overnight elsewhere. With light winds, we'll see some mist and fog patches forming. Later on, this weather system starts to increase the cloud and bring some rain across the far southwest. Under the clearest skies, temperatures in single figures, so a chilly start to Sunday morning. Some mist and fog patches quickly clearing, then plenty of sunshine through the central swathe of the UK. It remains generally cloudy across Northern Ireland, Northern England and Scotland through the day. Some patchy rain possible here, some heavier showers later. And this weather system slowly pushes northeastwards inland a little further, bringing cloud and rain to some southern parts of England and Wales. In the best of the sunshine, temperatures approaching 19 or 20 Celsius. Under the cloud, still feeling quite chilly. And a misty, murky start to Bank Holiday Monday. But again, this central part of the UK seeing the best of the sunshine as that morning mist and murk disappears, and then over the next few days we'll see high pressure starting to build in. It will settle down, we'll see more in the way of sunny spells and temperatures begin to rise.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me. My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country. That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel. GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Good afternoon, 47 minutes after 4 o'clock. If you've just tuned in, where have you been? There's Nana Nicey now. It's fine. You're here at GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and there's always something going on in the royal household. And this week has been no different. And each Saturday, I like to give you a rundown. And who better to do so than royal biographer Angela Levin? Angela.
Hello.
Good to see you. Right, so we've got a lot going on.
Yes.
Where should we start?
Well, you have to start with King Charles. He was allowed to come out and be with people, which is what he really wants to be. And I thought there was a big change in him because he was so accessible, so easily accessible. And when he went to the centre, the cancer centre, he was absolutely involved with the people. He was talking to them. And you could see that it wasn't just, you know, have you been here long and all that. It was really deep. And when he went, he always held their hand for about 20 seconds. And you think, you know, this is an amazing monarch, actually, who doesn't mind saying what is happening to him and who is actually really caring. And what was lovely with the protocol was that there were 2 children who were suffering from cancer who gave each of them, him and the Queen, a posy.
Aww.
And he gave them a bag full of presents for them.
That's
and
so
I thought
sweet.
that's a complete break of normal behaviour. The Queen would never have done that. But you see, he now wants to be one of the country and to do what he can for everyone. And I thought it was absolutely marvellous, because he also told them he had to rush because he had to go for his treatment. So you could picture what he's going through. And he could picture what they were going through, and it worked very well.
Yeah, it's lovely to see him out and about, isn't it? But he's so brave
He
and
is
so
very
very strong. And I think people really respect that we now understand what this duty is about when you see people like Meghan, who should have been able to handle it and should have got in there, and she didn't manage it. But of course, Harry is coming.
Yes, Harry
next
is
week.
coming. Yes, he's coming Tuesday. This is for Invictus Games, 10 years since it's been going, which is a marvellous event, and it's going to be celebration at the St Paul's Cathedral, or prayers for them. The big question is, will he see his father? I personally don't think so, because there's a big party in the gardens which finishes as the Invictus Games finish at 6 o'clock. And if he's had to shake hands and say hello to 100, I think there's 300 people coming, if he's going to have to do that, I think he would be very tired. And if he did see Harry, it would be very quiet, very quick. And I think that the Queen would make sure that she was there to make sure that Harry didn't upset him in any way. And in any case, Harry with Meghan is going off to Nigeria the following day. So I think this rushing to see people, and when you haven't had a decent discussion for a long time, is not actually ideal. If he's coming, he should come today, 2 days, 3 days, and then you've got time to get through things.
I just see this whole thing as quite shambolic, the relationship between the two of them, but it is crafted mainly because of the behaviour of Meghan and Harry. It's sad. Do you think that there's a chance that they may reconcile in some way in this little meeting? And what about Harry and his Invictus? It sounds like you mentioned it last week, and it does sound like they don't want him heading it.
Well, I'm not too sure now. I think people have taken a step back.
Okay.
Because there are some that still want him. And I think that this year will be the one that actually shows whether it's going to carry on with him or not. And it'll be in Canada. And the one they're trying to get in the UK is 27. And it's now gone between America and Birmingham, I think, whether it's going to be held there.
Oh, wow.
But what's lovely, we must talk about Charlotte, because it's her birthday. But she's really cool as a young girl. You know, she had one arm on the tree, and then she had a mini skirt on, which is so sweet when they're that age. And she's really smiling. She's brilliant. You know, she knows how to pose. She knows what she's doing. She's grinning at her mother. Luckily, Catherine took her photograph. And she's just divine, isn't she? She's very efficient. She bosses her brother, telling him, the older one, George, to tell him that when someone goes by, he has to bow. You know, she nudges him, tells him. She's completely in control. And she's just a delight of a girl. Very clever, very sporty. And, you know, she's going to be a huge hit for the rest of her life.
Very sensible young lady. She's learnt off her mother, Catherine, who is incredible. Do we have any updates on Catherine?
No, there's no updates. I mean, she has... I think it's quite a surprise for us that she's done the photographs of her and Louis a few weeks before, but she's actually keeping right away. And I worry for her. I think it was such a shock. I mean, King Charles said to one of the women he was talking to at the centre, you know, it's a terrible shock when you hear it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that is a terrible shock for somebody as young as her, 42. And I think it's very, very difficult. and she wants peace and quiet. So we'll have to see. But one more thing about King Charles was when he went out just before he was allowed out into the public, there was a photograph taken to celebrate his and the Queen's anniversary, 19th anniversary. And instead of usually the main person stares ahead, and the other one, whether it's man or woman, is not there. But this way, he was looking longingly at Camilla, and she was looking ahead with a wonderful beam. And they were in a garden with lots of flowers. And I think that was really very hopeful and lovely.
It is nice to see. That's true love, isn't it? The two of them.
It is nice to see true love.
They absolutely adore each other, don't they? But who would want to stand in between that? Angela Levin. Such a pleasure to talk to you. Lovely to see you.
Nice to see
brilliant Angela Levin, royal biographer. Prince Harry's royal biographer, don't you know? And also she's written Camilla, a book about Camilla as well. Well, if you just join me, welcome on board. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, my difficult conversation. Married at First Sight star Rosalin Darlington. An opportunity which opened many doors for Ros, from modelling to magazine shoots to experience on camera and a huge number of hours under her belt of filming. She'll be here live. First, let's get some weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon and welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So high pressure does continue to dominate, but it will be feeling a little chillier along some eastern coasts. The area of high pressure situated across the UK does bring a bit of a northeasterly breeze, so some chillier conditions, but plenty of dry weather around due to that area of high pressure. So some late afternoon and evening sunshine for some of us. However, some thicker cloud across parts of Scotland will bring some outbreaks of patchy rain, particularly for northern parts of Scotland, slowly sinking its way southwards into the early hours of the morning. Southeastern parts of England, Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland holding on to those clearer skies and turning quite chilly there, however remaining frost-free under that cloud and patchy rain. So for eastern parts of Scotland, a bit of a cloudy and grey and damp start to the day on Sunday. However, southeastern parts of England, Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland seeing the best of the sunshine through the morning. Perhaps one or two showers bubbling up across southeastern parts of England through the afternoon, but it should be staying dry for most places. However, that band of patchy rain slowly continues to sink its way southwards and feeling quite chilly under that cloud and rain too. However, in the sunshine, feeling very pleasant, highs of 14, 15, maybe 16 degrees across the south. Monday does start a bit of a greyer day for most of us. Outbreaks of rain continue to slowly push their way southwards, but southeastern parts of England probably holding on to that sunshine and feeling quite pleasant in that sunshine too. Maybe one or two showers around on Tuesday or Wednesday, but temperatures will be slowly recovering closer to average for the time of year.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the biggest cash prize we've given away to date. An incredible £20,000 that you could use however you like. And because it's totally tax-free, every single penny will be in your bank account to do whatever you like with. £20,000 in tax-free cash really could be yours this summer. But you've got to be in it to win it. For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text PRIZE to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Ellie Costello, and thank you so much for joining us here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon. It's just coming up to 5 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. Coming up, my difficult conversations. I'll be joined by Married at First Sight star Ros Darlington. What's it like to marry a complete and utter stranger? I think most of us find out after we've married them. Then, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is Rwanda having a deterrent effect? Then, as Boris Johnson attempted to go to his polling station without ID, I'll reveal all of what happened. But first, let's get your latest news.
Very good afternoon to you. It's just coming up to 1 minute past 5 and leading the news this hour. Labour has now picked up another 3 victories in England, with majorities in Greater Manchester, West Yorkshire and London's local elections. Sadiq Khan secured his 3rd term as London's mayor with 44% of that vote, beating his nearest rival, Conservative candidate Susan Hall, on 33%. In West Yorkshire, Labour's Tracy Brabin won the contest there, while Andy Burnham has also been re-elected as Mayor of Greater Manchester. He picked up just over 63% of that vote and says he'll always give his best to the job.
I'm overwhelmed. To have so many people prepared to put their trust in me is overwhelming. It's humbling. And I recognise that people who vote for other parties at a general election have lent me their support, and it's why I will be very, very rigid in taking a place first rather than a party first approach. It seems to me that's what the role of the mayor is all about, bringing people together, get everybody pulling in the same direction for a great city region like this one, and that's what I will be doing.
Well, here's a quick look at the standings across England in the local elections so far today. Labour now gaining control of 8 councils, up to a total of 50. And a headline figure for the Liberal Democrats. They have now won more council seats overall than the Conservatives. We're still waiting for results in Salford, and recounts are currently taking place in the West Midlands. We will keep across that for you throughout the afternoon. Well, Boris Johnson has thanked staff who refused to let him vote without photo ID. It was his government that brought in the requirement for voting. The former Prime Minister said that 3 villagers were right to stick to the rules, but Mr Johnson says that he did return a few minutes later with his driving licence. In other news, the family of Daniel Angerin say they're devastated after he was killed walking to school in London on Tuesday. The 14-year-old, who's been described as loving and precious, was attacked by a man with a sword. 4 other people, including 2 police officers, were also injured. Marcos Monzo, a Spanish-Brazilian dual national, was charged with murdering the teenager and appeared in court on Thursday. Southern Water insists it is working flat out to restore supplies to tens of thousands of homes in East Sussex this evening. More than 30,000 people are still without water due to a burst main. Bottled drinks are currently being handed out to some of those affected, and there's been disruption to schools, theatres, and it's expected to continue into tomorrow. Dozens of migrants in 2 small boats have crossed the English Channel today. Footage captured the moment a French vessel followed the boats until reaching English waters. The passengers, most of them men, were taken on board a British Border Force vessel off the coast of Dover. And it brings the total number of people arriving so far this year to now more than 8,300. And pro-Palestinian students are continuing their protests at universities across the UK. It follows similar violent demonstrations at campuses in the US. Sit-in camps and anti-Israel banners have been set up at some universities in protest against Israel's war with Hamas. Students in Bristol, Leeds, Manchester, Newcastle and in Sheffield are currently camping out in tents outside their campus buildings in protest against the war. Those are the headlines. More at 5:30. Until then, you can sign up to GB News Alerts. Just scan the code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. It's just coming up to 5 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of those big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course, it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today is broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy and also former Labour Party advisor Matthew Lauser. Still to come, my difficult conversation with Married at First Sight star and florist Rosalin Darlington. What's it like to marry a complete and utter stranger? We find out. Then, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is the Rwanda plan having a deterrent effect? Stay tuned for my mini-debate after Boris Johnson forgets to bring voter ID at his local polling station, a policy which he created. What are your thoughts on that? Should voters use ID? Then, as if you can get in touch, gbnews.com/your say. Sorry, I can't help laughing. I know you're laughing at home as well. But listen, it's time now for this week's difficult conversation. Now, would you ever agree to marry someone having never met them before? You don't know anything about that person, their personality, what they look like, nothing. Well, my next guest made the incredibly brave move to do that. Rosalin Darlington is a star of reality series Married at First Sight. Now, the 28-year-old florist who lives close to her parents' farm in Crewe married a stranger, Thomas Criaras, I think I said that right, on the show. I'm sure she'll correct me. When it aired last autumn, she rocked up to the wedding in a tractor, and then the newlyweds were sent packing on their honeymoon to decide if they wanted to stay married. And what we all want to know is, are they still together? But before we do that, some of you might remember this scene from the show.
Yeah? What's that? Is it?
I think I know.
What is that? What is that?
It's what you think it is.
It's Mr. Buzzy.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Oh, my God.
We took Charlene's advice on board and we introduced sex toys into our sex lives. It just happened to be at the dinner party with a cheeky love egg. We're not getting into drama tonight because I think we've got, you know, more fun things to be concerned about.
Oh, yeah, that. OK. Oh, brilliant. That's really bad. I'm having a fun time tonight. So, don't know about everyone else. Maybe they all need...
Well, the quiet ones who want to watch the fabulous Rosalin Darlington joins me now to spill the tea. Ros, welcome to the show. It's so good to see you. I thought you were cracking. I thought it was a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant show, and it was so much fun.
Well, thank you for having me, and also I haven't got one in now, so...
No, it's all right. Yeah, no. We won't talk about that, because it's daytime now. Daytime now, so we wouldn't dare. But Rosalin, talk to me about why did you decide to go on the show? You're a gorgeous woman. You don't need any help finding a date, surely not?
No, so I think, like, at that time in my life, it was all just a bit chaotic, like, everything seemed to be falling apart, and I just applied thinking it'd take me away from reality. And then when I actually got on, I was a bit shocked, because I thought, why would a girl from Crewe get on, you know, like a TV show? It was a bit weird, really. Like, why? And then it just went from there. You know, like, obviously, beforehand, I did want to get married, and I suppose, like, when all that's taken away, I thought, yeah, let's go marry a stranger, it's what I want. But it's really terrifying, like, when you get to the end of the aisle and you don't know what the guy looks like and you have to, like, there's all these cameras and you have to turn down, I was, like, scared. And also you don't know what they look like, you don't know their names, so, yeah, it's petrifying.
What was your honest first thought when you saw him? Because, I mean, you know, some people are obvious with the... there was one woman who was, like, awful when she saw him. She went, oh, my God. What was your honest first thoughts?
I feel like my face, obviously, like, when I turned down, I was nervous. And I think, first of all, I don't know, like, he seems like a nice guy, like... I think I was so overwhelmed with the cameras. I feel like it's more getting to know someone than... Obviously, you have to have, like, the initial attraction.
Were you attracted to him? Did you think he was attractive?
I think from the get-go, I feel like I was missing that, like, initial attraction. But I feel like these things can grow. So, like, I was just... I just tried. But I don't know, I think when you're overwhelmed as well, I literally... can't even remember really looking at his face properly when I was at the top of the aisle because I was like, oh.
Oh, my God. and when you got to meet the other couples, were there any of the guys there that you thought, oh, actually, that would have been a better one for me? And if so, who was it?
Definitely not. Like, I'm 100% loyal to, like, Thomas or any one of my partners. So, like, no, there was no... And, like, obviously, I get on with everyone, but I would never have jumped ship.
No. It's a very slow start for you guys as well, because he was a bit... You know, he didn't really want to do any kissing or anything. I could see that you were upset. I'd be annoyed as well, actually. I'd be like, oh, eh. But then he did come round. But then what happened in the end?
I know, because at first, obviously, he was very, like, standoffish with cuddles and affection, and I was thinking, like, he's obviously not into me. Like, girls would be like, he's not into me, he doesn't want to cuddle me. And it was just a cuddle. Like, that's all it was. But then, obviously, it did get better, and we did get, like, on the same page. But I feel like as soon as I came home...
I remember that.
Yeah, I just walked through the door, and something just freaked out.
You couldn't see him in your life as a...
Yeah, I think it around my family and my friends and just being back home, it's so hard because in the experiment you're in a bubble and everyone wants you to work and then I feel like when you get home, like, you lose all that support, so it is just you two, and is it going to work just you two? And I just thought, like, I don't know if it is.
Well, what have you come away with from that show? Because I have to be honest, somebody pointed out the Married at First Sight Australia. I started watching it, I just became addicted because you can watch one after the other, after the other, after the other, and it's wonderful. And I did the same with your one as well. What was the one thing that you came away that you felt you'd learnt from that experiment?
I do think I've grown as a person. Like, I think I'm so much more confident. Obviously, like, after watching it, you have, like, a level of trolling online as well, and I feel like I'm proud that, like, I've come over and passed that, and, like, I'm stronger than I ever thought I was. So I do feel like I've grown as a person and much more resilient. So, and I think I met all these amazing people, all these amazing experiences, like, so I can't fault it. And I did, you know, Thomas is a great guy. He's just unfortunately not for me, you know.
He seems lovely.
And if I could get him a perfect girl, I'd be taking her straight to him.
Does he live with his mum as well?
And his mum's so lovely.
I bet she's lovely, though.
Oh, she's so nice. I think that's huge. You've got to get on with, like...
The parents, yeah, because otherwise that's just the kiss of death. If they don't like you or you don't like them, it never works out, does it?
I know, well, touch wood... I've not been that bad yet.
No. But you know what I mean? It doesn't even...
Yeah, I do think.
Not like
it's a huge part of you all to get on and like each other, but she is amazing as well, so...
That's lovely. So have you found love?
I'm openly... I am dating.
You're dating.
Yeah, so...
Watch this space. And when you're not doing that, what was it like getting back into what you normally do? What are you when you're not on TV doing?
So yeah, I'm a florist and like a British flower grower. So I feel like after filming, I just jump straight back into like work really. So on the family farm, I've got like my flower paddock where I do all my British grown flowers, and yeah, I love it. I couldn't imagine me doing anything else really.
And have you got any other projects coming up that we should be keeping our eyes open for?
I don't know. I feel like...
Something's going to come up. We don't know. It's going to be a surprise for us.
But I just feel like living life like every day and like doing exciting things and just, you know, being present with my flowers. And I'm just dead lucky. I'm grateful.
Yeah, what a great thing. And you brought me something as well, these beautiful flowers. So you grow these all yourself?
Yeah, so they're all homegrown. And my apprentice, actually, Ella, did them. So I thought, how cute is that?
That's gorgeous, isn't it? Thank you so much.
I know. I've brought them on the train, on the tube.
I know you did everything. And you kept them like that and they're all...
I know, on the tube I was like, get back, stand back.
So flora is your business, your love. Do you have any other loves that you do? Are you a fitness person? Are you into health and food and all that kind of thing?
I'd love to say that I do like running, but I just don't. And it's like, I am going to try and do like more exercise. I do want to. Obviously, I did do horse riding, but my horse passed away, so then I've not... You know, they're so expensive to get, like, a new... And it's also, like, I love tango, so it's like, will it ever compete with her? Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I feel like I'm not doing anything other than just working and socialising.
Has it helped you being on the show? Because you were on the show, everyone got to know, everyone knows who you are now. Has that helped your career, and do you think it's something that is useful to you now?
I definitely have, like, grown in followers in my personal and my business, and I think, you know, that's also great. Like, my business is all social media driven, so, yeah, I think it's been great.
Well, listen, Ros, lovely to talk to you, really good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me. That is Rosalin Darlington. She was on Married at First Sight UK. It was a brilliant show. But now, let's go live to City Hall, where the Declaration for London Mayor is taking place.
So this is the official declaration of result of poll for the GLA election of the Mayor of London. I, Mary Harpley, give notice as the Greater London Returning Officer that the number of votes recorded for each candidate at this election is as follows. Amin Femi, Animal Welfare Party, People, Animals, Environment, 29,280. Binface, Count Binface for Mayor of London, 24,260. Blackie, Rob, Liberal Democrat, 145,184. Campbell, Natalie Denise, Independent, 47,815. Cox, Howard, Reform UK, London Deserves Better, 78,865. Gallagher, Amy, Social Democratic Party, 34,449. Garbett, Zoe, the Green Party, 145,114. Gulati, Tarun, Independent, 24,702. Hall, Susan Mary, the Conservative Party candidate, 812,397. Khan, Sadiq, Labour Party, 1,088,225. Mitchley, Andreas Christophe, Independent, 26,121. Rose, Brian Benedict, London Real Party, Transform London, 7,501. Scanlon, Nick, Britain First, No to Immigration, 20,519. That makes the total number of good votes cast on Thursday 2,484,432. I need now to take you through the number of ballot papers rejected and the reasons. Rejected for want of an official mark, 314. Rejected for voting for more than one candidate, 2,806. For writing or marks by which the voter could be identified, 129. Unmarked or void for uncertainty, 7,878. making the total number of rejected ballot papers 11,127. So total number of ballot papers counted on Thursday, 2,495,559. Our electorate for this election was 6,162,428. And as you know already, we had a turnout on Thursday of 40.5%. So, I therefore declare that Sadiq Khan has been duly elected as Mayor of London. I invite Sadiq Khan to the lectern to speak.
Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, London.
Khan killed London! Khan killed London!
Can you please, Sadiq, just pause there, please. The security will remove people who disrupt the speech. I made it very clear beforehand that that was not to happen.
Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, London. It's the honour of my life to serve the city that I love, and I'm beyond humbled right now. I want to express my deep gratitude to my fellow Londoners and make this pledge to you. I promise to repay the trust you've placed in me by working tirelessly to deliver the fairer, safer and greener London you deserve. It's been a difficult few months. We faced a campaign of non-stop negativity, but I couldn't be more proud that we answered fear-mongering with facts, hate with hope, and attempts to divide with efforts to unite. We ran a campaign that was in keeping with the spirit and values of this great city, a city that regards our diversity not as a weakness, but an almighty strength, and one that rejects right hard-wing populism and looks forward, not back. It's truly an honour to be re-elected for a third term, and to do so with record levels of support from Londoners, with an increased margin of victory. But today's not about making history. It's about shaping our future. A future where our children can be nourished with free school meals and breathe cleaner air, where all Londoners are given the support and helping hand they need to fulfil their potential, and where our social fabric is strengthened and our diverse communities cherished and celebrated. My determination to ensure London leads from the front with world-leading green action remains as strong as ever. We've already made great strides cleaning up our air, and will continue to tackle pollution, whether it's found on our streets or in our rivers. At the same time, I pledge to have a constant focus on all the other issues that Londoners also care about: the rising cost of living, crime on our streets, homelessness, affordable housing. For the last 8 years, London has been swimming against the tide of a Tory government. And now, with a Labour Party that's ready to govern again under Keir Starmer, it's time for Rishi Sunak to give the public a choice. A general election will not just pave the path to a new direction for our country that will make bold action Londoners want to see a reality. I also have a message to those Londoners who didn't vote for me this week. I promise I'll always be a mayor for all Londoners, and one who takes very seriously the duty I have to represent the interests of every community. I mustn't forget to say a massive thank you to my campaign team for their hard work and dedication. You've all been brilliant. I also want to thank Keir and the Shadow Cabinet for all their support, our Assembly members and candidates, our council leaders and councillors across this great city, our volunteers, our trade unionists and Labour Party members, and the returning officer and everyone here at City Hall for ensuring Londoners could make their voices heard. A special thank you goes to my mum for everything she's done for me. I love you. And to my amazing wife, Savia, and our daughters, Anissa and Amara, for their strength and support throughout all these years. I know there have been times when this job has taken a toll on you, and that's not right or fair. Some of the stuff on social media, the protests by our home, the threats, it's upsetting, it's frightening, and it's wrong. I'm truly sorry for putting you through this. But I also know you share my belief, as hard as it can be sometimes, this work is worth doing, because it means being able to give to other families the same life-changing opportunities that this wonderful city has extended to ours. I love you all so much. My final thank you must go to my fellow Londoners, the people who make this city not only special, but the greatest city in the world. Once again, you've proved that London is a city of progress, a city of pluralism, and above all, a city of possibility, a beacon for openness, inclusion, and equality across the world. It's Londoners who inspire me every day to continue our mission of building a fairer, safer, and greener London, and in what I hope will be a year of great change. A future Labour government led by Keir Starmer working with us in City Hall will mean we can go much further and accomplish so much more, ensuring that for our capital and for our country, our brightest days are still ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I would now invite Susan Hall to the lectern to speak.
Thank you. I'd like to congratulate all my fellow mayoral candidates and congratulate Sadiq on his victory. Spending a year campaigning for this election has been an honour and a privilege. I have loved speaking to Londoners about the things that matter to them. The thing that matters to them most, and to me, is reforming the Met and making London safe again. I hope Sadiq makes this his top priority. He owes it to the families of those 1,000 people who have lost lives to knife crime under his mayoralty. And I hope, too, that he stops patronising people like me who care. This isn't an episode of The Wire. This is real life on his watch. I will continue to hold Sadiq to account, to stand up for the hard-working families, to motorists and to women. I love London, and I urge Sadiq to try harder to make it better for all our sakes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the Mayor of London for his speech. Thank you, Susan, for your speech. That is the declaration event for the Mayor of London now finished. I hope to be back on this stage at about 6:30 this evening. It'll still be light, with the Assembly-wide results for the 11 London Assembly members London-wide. That should be about 6:30. But otherwise, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Well, so Sadiq Khan has become the Mayor of London for a third term. He talked about swimming against the tide of Tory government. He called for a general election. He promised that he will be the Mayor for all Londoners, even for those who didn't go and vote and represent all the interests. He thanked his team, his campaigners and every Londoner, and he wanted to make sure that their voices would be heard. He talked about basically a possibility for equality and a sense of equality around London. Well, let's see what my panel make of that. Joining me, Matthew Larser and Lizzie Cundy. Well, I've got to come to you, Matthew Larser. Labour have won a third term, mayoral term. Sadiq Khan is victorious.
Absolutely, and I thought it was a good speech. I thought that he was right to say that he needs to govern for all Londoners, not just those who voted for him. I was a bit disappointed that Susan Hall's speech was, I thought, a little bit sort of ungracious.
What?
Because it's just, you know, I hope Sadiq will do better than this and better than that. He's just been re-elected, but he's got to look.
She references The Wire though because of the comment that he made to her when she talked about knife crime, and he said that this is not an episode of The Wire. Now, come on, she wants him to take it seriously.
Matthew, that's disgusting statement. He said, and Susan Hall has every right to say that.
The reason is that she, I mean, in her campaign, she released a video which was about crime in London, which featured sort of apocalyptic pictures, and actually they were pictures from New York.
But you know that knife crime has risen. We saw it sadly happen this week to a 14-year-old boy. It is out of control. He has done absolutely nothing, and he said he's there for all Londoners.
Crime overall has gone down.
Look, he really, you know, obviously couldn't have stopped what happened.
No, but knife crime is...
Knife crime has...
And I, as a woman, don't feel safe in London anymore.
Well, listen, that's our thoughts. What are yours? Get in touch, as you know, gbnews.com/your say. You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and digital radio. So to come, the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is Rwanda having a deterrent effect? But first, let's get your latest news with Sam Francis.
Good evening, 5:30 exactly, and let's get a recap on the latest news regarding those local elections in England. As we've been hearing, Labour has picked up another 3 victories, with majorities in Greater Manchester, West Yorkshire and, in the last hour, in London. Sadiq Khan has secured his third term as London's mayor with 44% of the vote, beating his nearest rival, Conservative candidate Susan Hall, on 33%. There were also wins for Labour in Liverpool and in South Yorkshire, as counting continues in the West Midlands and Salford. The family of Daniel Anjorin say they are devastated after he was killed walking to school in London on Tuesday. The 14-year-old, who's been described as loving and precious, was attacked by a man with a sword in Hainault. 4 other people, including 2 police officers, were also injured in that attack. Marcus Monzo, who's a Spanish-Brazilian dual national, has been charged with murdering the teenager, and he appeared at Westminster Magistrates' Court on Thursday. Tens of thousands of homes in East Sussex will remain without water until at least tomorrow. That's after a pipe burst. Southern Water says disruption in St Leonards-on-Sea and in Hastings started on Thursday. It is now ongoing. The firm insists it's working tirelessly, though, to get supplies back to properties. But residents there say it's been disastrous. And dozens of migrants in 2 small boats have crossed the channel today. Footage captured the moment that a French vessel followed the boats until reaching English waters. The passengers on board, most of them men, were taken to a British Border Force vessel off the coast of Dover. And it brings the total number of people arriving so far on small boats to now more than 8,300. For the latest stories, you can sign up to GB News Alerts. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Leading motoring organisation has called for all new drivers to be
banned from giving lifts to friends for 6 whole months after passing their tests.
Yes, the AA says around 5,000 people every year are killed and seriously injured in crashes involving at least one young motorist. Graduated driving licences introduced with limitations imposed on a period of time after a driver passes their test. So a two-tier system.
Well, is this sensible or yet more ageism when it comes to regulating our habits in the United Kingdom? Let's speak to Quentin Wilson, a motoring journalist and transport campaigner. Really interested to get your thoughts on this, Quentin. There are a lot of people who instinctively will say this is state overreach. This is telling adults that they can't do something that they've done for generations. What's your view?
Well, look, the recent accident with the convertible Mini where people were twerking in the back, this is due to driver education. The person in control of that car really should have told the passengers just to buckle up and stay still. We're not teaching kids to drive properly. We expect them to do all this stuff below the dashboard, grinding of gears, hazard perception, positioning of car, in this very, very small time window, when we should be doing it from school age, teaching hazard perception. So I've been a patron of an organisation called Young Driver, who's delivered 1.4 million lessons to 11 to 17-year-olds on private land with ADI qualified instructors with dual controls. And the accident rate for that group is 4%. The national average is 20%. So look, we can do this, we can reduce these fatalities if we teach kids earlier about road safety.
Is this an issue, frankly, with teenage boys and showing off?
The testosterone does always seem to come through, doesn't it?
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, 35 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua, and it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, is Rwanda having a deterrent effect? The government sent the first ever migrant from the UK to Rwanda earlier this week. But just 48 hours later, 711 asylum seekers crossed the English Channel in a record-breaking day so far this year. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is Rwanda having a deterrent effect? Joining me, Simon Danchuk, Reem Ibrahim, Stephen Pound and Annunziata Rees-Mogg. Annunziata, I'm going to start with you. Is it having a deterrent effect?
I think it could have a deterrent effect. The problem is that our systems and institutions in this country seem determined to stop any flights taking off, and the people actually need to be known to be being removed from the UK before it can possibly have any serious impact.
It does feel a bit like nobody's going to allow it to happen. Simon Danchuk.
I think it is having an effect, actually. We had all the naysayers saying that the Rwanda plan wouldn't work. Immigration lawyers, Keir Starmer, Yvette Cooper saying it wouldn't work. But what we're seeing with Ireland is that people now are fleeing there. Illegal immigrants are going to Ireland, and I think that's to be welcomed.
Stephen Pound, do you think it's having a deterrent effect?
Good afternoon, Anna. I don't think it is. It's way, way, way too early to tell. Look, the problem the government has got, on the one hand, that they're saying that Rwanda is a sun-soaked earthly paradise. On the other hand, they're saying it's going to be so terrifying that you don't want to go there. The fact that we sent one person, it would have been cheaper to send them in a chauffeur-driven Bentley than just put $3 grand in their back pocket. Look, but what's odd about this, what's really strange, you know, Simon, not for the first time, has actually mentioned, you know, something that's quite salient here. This Ireland business is a different aspect. What I want to know is, why are these people in the country going to Belfast via Liverpool and then coming down to the Republic of Ireland? I don't think this can be anything to do with Rwanda. So I'd say at the moment, Rwanda is not having a deterrent effect. And if you have a look at your own GB News, look at the great boatloads, those shoals of people pouring across the calm, sunny Channel today. No sign of a deterrent effect now whatsoever.
Well, maybe they're heading to the Republic of Ireland. Reem Ibrahim.
But they're going the wrong way.
I think Stephen's right. I think that it's far too early to tell whether or not it's having a deterrent effect or not. We've seen record levels of immigration, people crossing the border so far. And I think what's interesting about this is we seem to be okay with spending huge amounts of money to send these people out of the country to Rwanda, but we're not okay with spending that money domestically to keep them here. So we've got to think about the cost of this in the long term. If it's going to cost huge amounts of money, one plane, all the way to Rwanda and £3,000. The cost of this is huge. And the fact of the matter is, the only person that has actually been sent to Rwanda was sent on the voluntary scheme. So unless we actually get the scheme working and actually get the forced removals working, unfortunately, I don't see this ever acting as an illegal, as a deterrent.
But isn't it our own fault, though? Because even when we set up something, we have all these people complaining. Like, you're absolutely spot on. I mean, this week we had people complaining around a coach in Peckham, which was going to take people to the Bibby Stockholm.
Absolutely, and we've got civil servants who are taking the government to court to check whether they are allowed to do their jobs legally. I think there is a very big institutional bias against this policy happening, which is completely unfounded, and we have a democratically elected government that should be able to write and enact the laws as it sees fit. Unfortunately, we seem to have handed a lot of power to foreign bodies such as the ECHR that are determined to prevent the government governing.
Simon, I noticed you nodding your head about that.
Well, I think the point is it's proven. The Irish government have said it's the Rwanda plan that's encouraging people to go to their country. They're saying it's around 80% increase of asylum seekers coming into Ireland. So I think it's proven. All the journalists that have gone over there to interview the illegal immigrants are saying that it's the Rwanda plan that's making them flee Britain. And so I think it is an indication that the plan is working. And I think once we do start people to Rwanda...
No one's been deported on the non-voluntary scheme yet. So until people are actually being deported to Rwanda, this still sends a signal to all of those criminal gangs and everybody that continuously comes to this country from other safe countries. Now, again, I think that immigration is a good thing. I think that people coming to this country and working is a good thing. But at the moment, we've got huge amounts of people on the asylum seeker backlog that are in limbo. It's illegal for them to work. They're unable to work.
But we know all that. We know all that, though. It's more whether Rwanda is having a deterrent effect. OK, I'm going to ask you yes or no. Simon Dunchuk, yes or no, Rwanda, is it having a deterrent effect, yes or no?
Yes, absolutely.
Reem Ibrahim, yes or no?
No.
Stephen Pound, yes or no?
No.
And Anunziata Rees-Mogg, yes or no?
It can do if the government can get it working.
Thank you so much for your thoughts. Really good to hear what you think. There we go. That's what they think. What do you think? gbnews.com/your say. Well, let's see what my panel make of that. Joining me now, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also former Labour Party advisor Matthew Lauser. Lizzie, I'm going to start with you.
Well, it's too early to say, and I have to say I agree with Stephen Pound. Not very often I agree with him, but it could have been really good, but they have spent so much money, 290 million, another 100 million in the further 2 years. The main people that have gone are the Home Secretaries that have cost 400,000. James Cleverly on his own, the jet cost 165,000. Who's footing the bill? Us, the taxpayer. So, to be honest, it's pretty much a mess, I'm afraid, and they should have left the ECHR and been able to get these flights off, and they haven't been able
But we have to have a third country. I mean, even if people say, oh, Rwanda, we have to have a third country, because otherwise, Matthew Lauser, your great leader, said that he's going to scrap Rwanda even if it's working, and in Ireland some people are saying it is, but you will need a third country if people
I think
don't meet the criteria
I think
for asylum.
testament to it not working is the fact that, as we heard, 710 people arrived in...
711.
711 forgive me, arrived, and I think even more today, as we were hearing in the news. So, I mean, you know, I know a few people in Dublin are saying this, but actually, the people who are arriving on the small boats, who are both arriving in the country illegally and taking their own lives at risk by going on small boats across the Channel, it isn't deterring them because they're still coming.
But it's one element of a larger picture, and we do need that element. I mean, otherwise...
I want to stop those boats
If somebody
coming.
comes here and, you know, you don't know where they've come from, they don't tell you, or they can't be sent back to where they're going, but they failed asylum, we'll need a third country.
See, Nana, the only one who's gone so far was voluntary and got $3,000 in his pocket.
Yeah, but that's our own fault, isn't it? Because we're allowing people to scupper it, no matter what we do.
Sadly, 14 deaths already, 8,000 already up to this year. 183 million are being made by the criminals. That's where we need to smash the gangs.
Yeah, I agree.
But yes, Rwanda could be the deterrent, but they've, you know, the government have been too weak.
But is it
we should
really...
have left the ECHR and made
it's
this
the legal
happen.
challenges. It's the fact that we pay for everybody who wants to decide to go against their appeal. We need to take away some of those things.
I think what we need to do is smash the gangs. So we need to do things like Keir Starmer's plan. No, but it's before people get here.
There's stuff we can do. There's stuff we can do now.
We could use anti-terrorism legislation against the gangs, which the government refused to do, but Keir Starmer said he'd do on day one.
The government hasn't been strong enough with this. It should have been happening a long time ago, and they've dragged their feet. Rishi hasn't been strong enough, shown in the election polls. He's weak, and he's like a jellyfish in a Prada suit.
All right, well,
it's a great line. I'm going to use that.
I've used it before. This show is nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome our great British voices onto the show. Their opportunity to tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing. I've got three of you. I'm going to start with Brian Dugan, but before we go to Brian, come back to you, Matthew Larson. You look slightly startled. You put your glasses back on.
I put my glasses back on to look serious.
Yeah, so before we go back to Brian, I just want to ask you, though, do you think, though, if Keir Starmer reverses Rwanda, do you not think that would be unpopular? Because it's a piece of...
I think Keir Starmer will be breathing a sigh of relief that we're not further down the Rwanda road, because even if the election isn't until right at the end of the year, I think we're going to find that, you know, only if best a handful of people have been sent. So I don't think it will be like he'll be stopping a successful scheme because we won't be able to tell.
Whatever Keir Starmer says now, you know he's going to do a U-turn later on.
It's outrageous. He's a man of principle.
Captain Flip-Flop. You know he will.
Did you buy the flip-flops with his face on?
I have, yeah, and I've worn them. Indeed. Yeah, but I'm sorry, you know, that's the thing with Labour. We don't actually know what they stand for or their policies. They've just got on in the voting because of default from the Conservative Party.
We've got a very clear policy we need on smashing the gangs, which is using anti-terror legislation, having a cross-border police force, making sure we process claims quicker by putting 1,000 more people so that we can send people home who shouldn't be in the country. It's a very clear plan.
Well, you say that's a very clear plan. It sounds like it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. I don't think so.
That's what the Prime Minister is.
I actually think that you're slightly delusional, and I also think that the fact that you're delusional means that you've come up with this naive policy, which Keir Starmer's come up with, where he thinks he's just going to do that and it's all going to work out. I think he's wrong, and I can't wait to see what he does.
And you know what? Do you know what? He'll show his true colours, because without Peter Mandelson and Tony Blair writing his script, he is pretty much useless.
Well, they were part of a very successful government. But, I mean, I
wouldn't
the government
say
thinks it's really easy because
all right,
the votes.
Well, listen, let's go to our great British voices. I'm going to try Brian Dugan again from Solihull. Brian Dugan, what do you think? I mean, is Rwanda a deterrent? You've got about 30 seconds, Brian.
I don't think it is, Nana. I think it's actually quite a cynical, you know, just ploy. I don't see anything that it will actually fundamentally address. Labour's stance on this is abundantly clear, despite you know, trying to shroud it in any kind of mystery. They're going to tackle the problem where the root causes are.
Well, yeah, they say that.
Cynical thing that addresses things at superficial value, and it has no impact whatsoever.
You don't know that, Brian. And as for calling it, their plan is perfectly clear. I don't even think they know what it is. Miranda Richardson, not the Miranda Richardson, our Miranda Richardson in Northamptonshire. Miranda, are you frozen? Miranda's frozen. I've got a David Balm. David Balm, are you frozen as well? No,
I hope not.
No, you're not. Speak to me.
No, very real. Very quick one, obviously, because of time. Keir Starmer's brilliant. But so far, he's going to send them all back to where they come from, except they've been told by the EU they're not going to accept anybody. Dublin's been trying to shove them back to us because they don't want them. There has to be some sort of system that stops it. If Rwanda just reduce it day by 10 to 15%. That's at least a start. We don't have the capacity in this country to house the hundreds of thousands of illegal, and let's face it, that's what they are. There are illegal migrants.
Exactly. David, we are running out of time.
People forget this. They're protesting. It's not legal migration.
David, stop talking. We've run out of time. For goodness sake, man. Close your mouth. Right. Thank you so much to my great British voices. They'll probably never come back. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Coming up, my quick fire quiz. I test the panel on some of the stories that caught my eye this week. Do not go anywhere.
Hello there, welcome to your latest weather for GB News. It's a mixed outlook, largely cloudy over the next 24 hours, particularly across the north of the UK, best of the sunshine in the south. Why? Well, generally low pressure dominates the weather pattern this system, bringing some heavier rain through Bank Holiday Monday, showers elsewhere. And through the rest of the day, we've got this area of cloud across Northern Ireland, Northern England into Scotland, giving some showery outbreaks of rain, this heavy at times, clearing skies overnight elsewhere. With light winds, we'll see some mist and fog patches forming. Later on, this weather system starts to increase the cloud and bring some rain across the far southwest. Under the clearest skies, temperatures in single figures, so a chilly start to Sunday morning. Some mist and fog patches quickly clearing, then plenty of sunshine through the central swathe of the UK. It remains generally cloudy across Northern Ireland, Northern England and Scotland through the day. Some patchy rain possible here, some heavier showers later. And this weather system slowly pushes northeastwards inland a little further, bringing cloud and rain to some southern parts of England and Wales. In the best of the sunshine, temperatures approaching 19 or 20 Celsius. Under the cloud, still feeling quite chilly. And a misty, murky start to Bank Holiday Monday. But again, this central part of the UK seeing the best of the sunshine as that morning mist and murk disappears, and then over the next few days we'll see high pressure starting to build in. It will settle down. We'll see more in the way of sunny spells and temperatures begin to rise.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. 51 minutes after 5 o'clock. It's time now for the quick fire quiz, the part of the show where I test my panel on some of the stories that are hitting the headlines. Joining me, the fabulous broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Your buzzer, please, Lizzie. And also former Labour Party advisor Matthew Blaser. Your buzzer, please.
I was called Laser the Blazer at school. It's a long story.
All right. All right. Question one. Please play along at home. Where did King Charles make his first return to public duties since announcing his cancer diagnosis? Was it A, Macmillan Cancer Centre in London, B, Windsor Food Share Food Bank, or C, Sandringham Stretch? Lizzie Cundy.
A.
You're absolutely right. It was indeed the Macmillan Cancer Centre in London.
And lovely to see him too, may I say.
Amazing?
Yes.
Question two. Closest answer wins. How many days did Humza Yousaf last as First Minister of Scotland? Matthew Blaser.
380.
Lizzie Cundy.
381.
381. The answer is 397, Lizzie Cundy, you have taken that. Well done. Yes, it was actually 397 days. So a little bit longer than Liz trusts. Right, open question. Question 3. What did Bonnie Tyler admit to doing at the start of her singing career? Buzzers, please. Buzzer. Lizzie Cundy.
A waitress.
What did she admit to doing? Mouthing to other people's tracks.
Mouthing to other people's tracks. The answer is she toned down her well.
Total Eclipse of My Heart is my karaoke piece.
Oh, really? You can sing that?
I'd say it's my karaoke piece.
Oh, at the end of the show, if we've got time.
No way.
Yes.
No way.
You're asking for it.
Right, true or false? Question 4. There are plans to build an underwater tunnel between Europe and Africa. Lizzie Cundy.
True.
Matthew
False.
Lazo. False. The answer is it's true. Be a long old tunnel. But
It'll be like Boris's tunnel to Northern Ireland. It'll never happen.
Question 5. Why was the Co-op Live Arena in Manchester unable to open? Was it A, they forgot to order enough seats, B, the speakers failed to play out loud, or C, the air conditioning broke? Matthew Lazo.
C, the air conditioning collapsed.
Even though you went in before, Lizzie Cundy?
I did.
I'm going to do different. B.
B. Let's see, the answer is C, the air conditioning broke.
God.
Right, I think the scores on the doors are...
I think Lizzie won.
Lizzie Cundy, you
won
finally won.
ahead.
So, yes, and happy birthday to you, the speakers. Well.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Oh, by the way, I've got a present for you all. It's a Lizzie Cundy sticker, birthday sticker. There you go.
Thank you.
Lola. I have one for you.
I shall make sure I wear this.
Thank you, yes.
Yes. Thank you very much.
like we're in a
Get
cult.
your
Somewhere to put it.
stickers.
It's some sort of the cult of Cundy.
The cult.
The Cundy cult.
Okay,
Right.
I'll be careful where to place it.
Yes, you have to be careful with your words on that. Well, listen, on today's show, we've been asking, is Rwanda having a deterrent effect? And according to our Twitter poll, 24% of you say yes, 76% of you say no. I'm quite surprised at that. I would have thought they would have gone for it.
I thought so.
Well, listen, I've got to say...
I think it shows that it's not working, it's not hitting home with the public.
I think people have had enough of it.
All right, well, thank you so much to my panel, broadcast and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also
Nana.
to you, Matthew Laza.
Thank you so much.
And a huge thank you to you at home for your company as well. I'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. But Matthew Laza, sing us out with Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Absolutely
You
not.
have
Take it
strength.
away.
Come on, Matthew.
We're going to have silence.
Come on, quickly, just one note. You've got 10 seconds.
It
I've
will
left
be one
to you.
note. I can't.
Just do, come on.
No.
Total eclipse
Eclipse of the Heart. A total eclipse of Matthew Laza's voice, even though he bragged about it in karaoke.
Not even for my birthday, you wouldn't sing.
Well, listen, don't forget to join me tomorrow, same time, same place, at 3 o'clock. The fabulous Christine Hamilton and Danny Kelly will be there live. Take care. Enjoy your day. I shall see you tomorrow at 3.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon and welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So high pressure does continue to dominate, but it will be feeling a little chillier along some eastern coasts. The area of high pressure situated across the UK does bring a bit of a northeasterly breeze, so some chillier conditions, but plenty of dry weather around due to that area of high pressure. So some late afternoon and evening sunshine for some of us. However, some thicker cloud across parts of Scotland will bring some outbreaks of patchy rain, particularly for northern parts of Scotland, slowly sinking its way southwards into the early hours of the morning. Southeastern parts of England, Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland holding on to those clearer skies and turning quite chilly there, however, remaining frost-free under that cloud and patchy rain. So for eastern parts of Scotland, a bit of a cloudy and grey and damp start to the day on Sunday. However, southeastern parts of England, Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland seeing the best of the sunshine through the morning. Perhaps 1 or 2 showers bubbling up across southeastern parts of England through the afternoon, but it should be staying dry for most places. However, that band of patchy rain slowly continues to sink its way southwards and feeling quite chilly under that cloud and rain too. However, in the sunshine, feeling very pleasant, highs of 14, 15, maybe 16 degrees across the south. Monday does start a bit of a greyer day for most of us. Outbreaks of rain continue to slowly push their way southwards, but southeastern parts of England probably holding on to that sunshine and feeling quite pleasant in that sunshine too. Maybe 1 or 2 showers around on Tuesday or Wednesday, but temperatures will be slowly recovering closer to average for the time of year.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The The next great British giveaway winner could be you, with a massive £20,000 in tax-free cash to be won. Imagine how you'd react getting that winning call from us.
Hi, my name's Phil Cox, and I won the Great British Giveaway. I'd say, why not? What is it? The price of a text and £2 to enter. And if I can win it, anybody can win it. And they're going to get even more money this time round, so why wouldn't you go in the draw?
For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text PRIZE to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio, and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall? Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
It's Saturday night, and this is the Saturday 5. I'm Darren Grimes, along with Albie Corner, Fleur Meston, Ben Leo and Benjamin Butterworth. Tonight on the show...
It's not all doom and gloom for the Tories after the disappointing local election results.
The dangers of Stella Creasy's extreme abortion amendments.
TikTok